Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 PC games of the 1990s. Number 10, Star Wars TIE Fighter. Some awesome spaceflight simulators came out in the 90s, and while Wing Commander 2 just missed out on our list, TIE Fighter ruled our virtual skies. Number 9, Civilization. Designer Sid Meier's series of turn-based strategy games went on to become one of the most beloved franchises in all of PC gaming, but it all started with this installment. Number 8, Quake 2. This was one of the most seminal titles in the FPS genre, supported by both a great single-player and multiplayer experience. Number 7, System Shock 2. Ken Levine went on to become one of the most acclaimed designers in all of gaming with the BioShock series, but this title is considered to be his masterpiece. Number 6, Grim Fandango.
But I'm your friend. My name's Manny Calavera. I'm your new travel agent.
I don't want a new travel agent. I want to go home.
Many gamers considered this graphic adventure to be one of the funniest games ever made, along with LucasArts' other iconic series, Monkey Island. But that is not its only virtue. Number 5, Myst.
I have to leave quickly. Something terrible has happened.
This puzzle-filled adventure was thought of by many as a title that would change gaming forever when it was first released. And though it may not have, it's hard not to see why. Number 4, Diablo. The PC RPG was becoming stale in the mid-90s, but this hack-and-slash hybrid brought it roaring back. Number 3, Doom. While it wasn't the first traditional FPS, with that honor actually belonging to its predecessor, Wolfenstein 3D, Doom was at the time a technical milestone with the super-fast, hyper-violent gameplay that shocked as much as it awed. Number 2, Half-Life. Speaking of revolutionary FPS games, this title took the genre even further. Prior to it, video game storytelling had happened mostly through cutscenes, but Half-Life showed how you could tell compelling tales without them, or even without a speaking protagonist. Number 1, StarCraft. PC saw tons of great RTS titles in the 90s, but this one was definitely the best of the lot, or of any other genre. StarCraft did what so many titles have tried and failed to do, both before and since. It created 3 unique factions that played entirely differently, but that were totally equal in the hands of skilled players.
Oh shit.
Whoa! Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 7th season of Timeless Gamer, where the games and gamers grow older while the gaming experiences will forever remain timeless. Your gaming podcast show brought to you by Pinoy Retro Gaming. And we are now live in Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And for all of our archive videos that you haven't seen as of yet, that's fine. Just go to the YouTube channel of Timeless Gamer. That's Timeless Gamer PRG. Or just go into the Facebook page of Pinoy Retro Gaming. And you can also listen to us talk. Just go to Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Samsung Podcast, Podcast Index, Listen Notes, Pandora, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Deezer. Just type in Timeless Gamer. Oh my God, that's a lot of stuff, and we got everything covered, so there's no excuse for you not to listen to us with all of this gaming goodness all over your body. Previously on Timeless Gamer, we were able to thing called Disney, and how a generation of gamers were brought into a whole new world of gaming. So if you haven't watched that particular episode, it was a very fun episode. Unfortunately, I was not even there. Uh, do a sing along with these guys. Just go to the YouTube channel, Timeless Gamer PRG, or the Facebook page of Pinoy Retro Gaming to see that Disney themed episode that we did the last time. How about tonight? So tonight we are discussing about the golden era of PC gaming, particularly during the 90s up to the year 2005. And around this time, guys, the console wars of the 90s raged on between Sega and Nintendo. Sony coming into the fray during the late 90s. But in the background, the master race is building up its army, so to speak. It has its own following. It has its own regime, its own right. All right. And with the advent of Windows 95 coming from Microsoft, promised better game, promised more data processing, not only for home use and business use, but also for the home entertainment as well, such as video games with more graphical performance, video and sound. We got more PC games that came out on the 90s and the 2000s, the early 2000s, as much as that we got from Sega, Nintendo, and Sony at that time. So for this particular episode, we got Sir Dan, who suggested this particular episode a while back. So he's the one leading the charge. And speaking of which, we got the two hosts of the Sega Mega Masters podcast show, Sir Dan and Sir Viraj. Give it up.
Yo.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
All right. So for you guys who are not in the know, Sir Dan and Sir Viraj are 2 out of 4 hosts of the Sega Mega Masters podcast show, also available in YouTube. The last episode that they uploaded was still Paprium, I believe.
Still Paprium.
And they're about to release a new one coming in soon. So be sure to go to their YouTube channel. That's Sega Mega Masters. Subscribe to that channel. All good stuff for all of you Sega enthusiasts out there listening to us. And of course, how about our people here? Sir JDM, what's up? Oh, Sir JDM.
Hey, good morning
There you are.
and good evening, everyone. I thought I got off. So, welcome to Timeless Gamer, and tonight we'll be talking about the PC games of the 90s up until 2005. So, there's a lot of games that we're going to talk about. And by the way, can I say something? I would like to greet my mom, who just turned 69 today.
Oh,
Happy birthday,
magical
Ma!
number.
And thank you
Happy
so much.
birthday, Mrs. Mama JDM.
And that's my mom here. When I was back then, when I was a little boy. And here, not so much. I think this was taken 10 years ago. And that's my mom. And thank you so much for letting me play those fabulous, awesome games back that I used to love. So,
Not soon enough, but thank
Happy
you,
birthday.
Mama JDM. All right, thank you, Sir JDM, for that. And look who's back again. Guess who's back? Call a friend.
Hi.
We got Miss Ashley Porter. What's up?
Welcome everybody to the Timeless Gamer episode for tonight. I hope you enjoy our trip down memory lane. We're gonna talk about lots of PC games, and I hope you enjoy our picks for tonight.
All right. Thank you for that, Miss Eileen. Oh, since this is we hardly get Miss Eileen here in the show, so why not let her do the honors on reading the chat? How you all doing down there? So who do we got down there?
So on Facebook we have Tito Jano and Jan Santos. Hi, Sir Tito Jano. And we have Sherwin Lyle who says hello. Sherwin Lyle Katimbang. Oh, and our also fellow Timeless Gamer uh, panel, Charlene. Hi, welcome. And good luck with work tonight. Thanks for watching. Hope we have you back soon. Dave Scott. Good pay mga sirs. And happy birthday sa nanay mo, Sir GDM. Naalala ko siya napadpad sa stream ni Sir Derek dati nagkwento tungkol sa'yo. Happy birthday po sa mami ni Sir GDM.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Miss Eileen. And a very particular number, right? 90s up to 2005. So why 2005? So what happened then? So to answer that question, we got Sir Dan. So I'll just give it now to Sir Dan and explain why 2005. Why not go further than that?
I think it's just an easy number to remember, mate. I think it's generally viewed in the PC gaming groups that I'm in as the golden era of PC gaming. I think a lot of studios kind of changed the philosophy a bit, moving away from more traditional PC depth-based games to more cinematic and more console-minded type games around that time in 2005. So that era is all the people I speak to seem to hold that era in the highest regard when it comes to PC gaming.
Oh,
Are you sure it's not because they all got old and too tired to get PC games after 2005?
Probably, mate. Probably.
Windows 98 and Windows XP have nothing to do with it. Sure.
Well, either that or graphics cards became too expensive after 2005.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's just if you look at the classic games, you know what I mean, the foundation games born out of stuff like the SSI series out of the 80s, that kind of hung on up until about 2005, and then it changed. A lot of traditional games that were 2D isometric went 3D and went more action based, really. So there were a bit of just a shift. I think Dragon Age Origins is a good example. I think that came out in 2006, and that's obviously an essentially a Baldur's Gate game, but it moved into 3D, and it went in that process. That was a game that was developed with consoles in mind, as opposed to being a PC game ported to consoles. And so I guess that's where a lot of PC gamers see a lot of developers betraying the master race.
The master race. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, right there listening and watching us now, I'm not sure if these people right here, right now, can appreciate on these guys. They are so privileged. At the time, we can only afford the measly Nintendo and the measly Sega at the time. So we couldn't afford PC games. We are not so privileged to be among the master race.
Oh, come on, man.
But these guys, they have the money. Sure.
I mean, you had Ski Free, you had Spider Solitaire PC games. No,
You have a Space Cadet. You have mine.
I was only able to handle a computer because of during high school, and that's it. But Solitaire, mind-boggling. How can you do that with the cards?
Anyway. I mean, I was quite lucky in that at that time I was working part time and I was doing college 16 hours a week, and they all had PCs accessible, so that made gaming and trying stuff out really easy for me, really. So, but there's nothing measly about Sega, Joe. Don't worry, there's nothing measly about the mighty Sega, mate. So you were still all right with it.
More on the console gaming right here. I mean, the people on the upper strata, yeah, they're the PC master race. They will always keep on clamoring that one. And every gaming groups out there, they'll always say, consoles, peons, peasants, not us.
The peasants.
With the monocle, not as dignified as PC users.
You see, this era we're talking about now, 1990 to 2005, for me, the consoles and the PCs both had a very, very separate identity. So they both had a big place. You know what I mean? I got a PC. I love PC gaming, but it didn't remotely put me off console gaming, and I love console gaming just as much still. Do you know what I mean? Console gaming was plug in, play, no hassle, straight to it, easy pickup, and very, very accessible. With PC gaming back then was obviously a lot more faffy. I mean, it's still a bit faffy now, but you had to invest time into getting stuff working. So both of these had a place back then. Whereas I look at it now, and honestly, most modern consoles to me, I think they're just crap PCs. They really are. I can see the master race superiority because, like I say, you've got a Switch, which is essentially a tablet. You know what I mean? You've got Xbox and PlayStation that you have to log on and install games and wait for things to.
Consoles become PCs now, really. I think the technology in terms of the graphical output of PS5 and the Xbox solution. I'm not saying they're better than PCs. Obviously, PCs, if you've got the right graphics card, right processor married to it, will always be better than a console. They can run at many teraflops, but you pay a fortune for that. With the solutions that Microsoft and Sony are offering, it's actually viable and it's very close to the graphics of the PC. And in my opinion, growing up in the 90s and going forward, and you'll agree with this, Dan, is the pinnacle of video games in the 80s was arcade. The best graphics, everything was the arcade. Then PC then took over that slot as being the pinnacle. And that sort of happened in the early 90s going onwards, where you could get PCs which were designed to be better, with better graphics cards, better memory, better output, better performance, and you can always upgrade PCs if you know what you're doing. With consoles, that's for the layman. And as soon as you buy that console,
you can always build the ultimate PC, yet you always still play 1993 Aladdin on it.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, like, it's a case of, if you had the money, and this is it, it's all to do with the scale of economy here. If you are part of the league, you know what you're doing, you know what graphics card works with the processor, and I have made the mistake of buying a graphics card that didn't work with my AMD K6 processor and something went bad. Well, I'm not going to talk about it, it's embarrassing. Okay, but you had to know what you were doing, because you could really mess up your computer.
That's true.
You can mess up your processor and everything. So you have to make sure you have the right graphics card. Is it an AGP slot and a PCI slot? You have to know which slot it went in. You have to know if it's compatible processor. You have to know what you're doing, and you do pay a lot more money for it, but you're paying for that premium in terms of a computer, a PC that can run the pinnacle in graphics. And I would say that was something, I'd say mid-1995 to 2005 was actually really, really a game changer for the elite. And arcades, not to say arcades didn't offer the pinnacle later on, but PC became the more prevalent format for the best graphics and performance for video games. And that's basically what it was, really. If you want to have the best, that's what it was. But you had to pay over $1,000 for a PC, $2,000. There's a lot of money back then. That's a lot of money back in 1995. Going on,
I think as well, you make some great points there, mate. You make some fantastic points, and I think that it was the genre shift as well. So one of the biggest genres to come out in the 90s were the first-person shooter genres, and that evolved into obviously role-play games, and you simply N64 and PlayStation and that, they had a go at it, but they simply couldn't touch PCs for that genre. So you had a lot more weight and relevance and significance to it than it had done previously, really, because that it wasn't just a graphical boundary that got moved forward. The what you could experience game wise got moved forward big time as well.
This is true. However, one of the best, I know we're turning this into sort of I'm going to be very quick this because we're turning this into a PC versus console debate here, but the benefit of having the console, even though it was sort of outdated, let's talk about N64 since you brought it up. You have a dev kit for the developers, and this console is going to have a lifespan of, say, 5 years, if you're lucky N64. But you have a lifespan that's the X amount of time. Developers have all the time in the world to make the game the best they can for that format. And consoles, in my opinion, they had a lot more better games for their period, for that console, because they worked around that hardware that the console had. Whereas PC's ever changing, that PC developers or game developers are developing their games around a specific chipset and a graphics card. So they're limiting themselves to the elite. Yeah? If you're going to make a video game, and you've got a guy who, like 40 million Mega Drives, for example, who's sold, so you've got a 40 million user base, you're going to be able to sell that game quick. If you're going to make a really high-end PC game, you're limiting your audience as well. So, but who are you going to make this game for? So I think a lot has changed. Obviously, a lot has changed now because PC gaming is more accessible now because solid-state memory, because cards are really good, and you don't have to have the most advanced graphics now to play really good PC games. It's only for the super elite, and they're going to pay that money for these PC games with the graphics cards. Then the people really benefit. So
the bugs and the glitches as well. Yeah, you're paying for all of it.
You are paying for a premium. Go back to Joe's point, it is for the elite, and it will always be for the elite. But I think PC gaming is more accessible now than it was back in 95 to 2005.
Yeah.
And well, obviously, when we go talk about our games, we'll talk about whether was it easy to access back then. And I think talking about the graphics card that you needed to run it might help. But if you remember, if you can't, I can't remember, it was so long ago. But there is a benchmark here in terms of good PC games, and not all good PC games, as you know, have to have the best graphics in the world. Quake 4 did nothing. Obviously, that's a game that came out later, along with Doom 3. You needed like 2 gigs of something stupid like in terms of RAM minimum to run these things. So, was it 4 gigs? I can't remember. And Windows Vista didn't help either because that took a lot of video memory as well, as we know. So that probably is why 2005 is where the golden age ended, because of stupid Windows Vista.
True.
But going forward, just want to get my point clear. Consoles have their benefits because you can make games for that custom hardware. It's got a large user base. It's cheaper to buy a console than a PC, typically. PCs are for the elite, but they are pushing the frontier in graphics and gameplay and leading the charge for what the next consoles will have. In terms of graphics.
When did the PS3 came out? 2005, 2006, right?
2006.
Around this time, you got it's the HDMI era of console gaming with PS3 and Xbox 360. So by PC standards, they're pretty much neck and neck as far as the visuals is concerned, right?
Yeah,
they're catching up.
I should be should be around the reasonable time period of the time.
Yeah. And contrary to the console peasants who were thinking that PC were better, I was playing on software rendering back in the 90s. So you don't really need a graphics card to play those games. You just need to back then we were using 800 by 600 resolution, and that runs good as well.
That was times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
good times.
Something we've not mentioned, and this is one of the reasons me personally, I loved having both a PC and a console setup, is because, like I say, the console was simplicity, ease of access, get in there, but the PC you could mess about with the game so much more. You know what I mean? Most games you had some form of editor or console, or you know what I mean. So you could edit characters, you could dig into the
modding,
and do you know what I mean? There were a lot more you could do with it in actually changing the game's foundation itself. So
it's more open source, yes.
Another interesting point is input devices. When we're playing games on a PC, we're typically using the mouse and the keyboard. You mentioned FPSs, right, Dan?
Yeah.
I think we had this discussion earlier this week, which is one FPS I love on the console, which you don't, is GoldenEye.
Ew, you play with a controller.
Or you play with analog sticks. We've got. I haven't got one here, but you have an analog stick to aim your cursor to your gun when playing FPS. It's something that I've never truly really gotten used to. I'd die a lot of times before I got good at it. A mouse and a keyboard is like the easiest way to play an FPS. I don't care what anyone says. that is the best way to get that pinpoint accuracy. And that's what I think is great about PC gaming. The input device of the mouse deal with 4 FPSs and RTSs, okay, real-time strategy games. Sorry, for those listening, FPS is a first-person shooter game, and RTS is real-time strategy games. For those kinds of games, that input device is more appropriate. And it's not to say you couldn't get mice for a console. You could, but those games are better for the PC format. Also, that you can buy input device like steering wheels for a computer if you're playing racing games. You can get a control pad for your PC if you want to use a control pad. So it's not like you have to, but there are extra things you have to buy. But you'd have to buy them for consoles anyway. To be honest, all right, maybe not the control pad because you get it in the box, but you'd have to buy a mouse for the console. So obviously, it's what accessory you get with the PC with the mouse and keyboard, which is one of those things, is probably a more appropriate use of playing certain PC games and certain genres. And I think we'll touch on that later on as we progress with this video. But
that's reminded me really that when it comes to actually playing these games, it's also about the environment you're playing them in. And I look back, and a lot of my time actually PC multiplayer game was spent local area network gaming, either at college or at work. I used to work at a place called CCS Media, and they had it all. We had a Quake 2. But on your lunch break, you played Quake 2. So that you couldn't take your Mega Drive or your PlayStation into work and all that. So PCs gained a lot of popularity where I lived in that respect as well.
That's true. If the professor comes in, oh shit, close the window.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just need a switch hub to connect all those computers to play all those LAN games. Unlike in the consoles, you need those link cables. The PS1, you need that link cable, right, to play Red Alert 2. I mean, Command & Conquer Red Alert, right? And that's just 2 consoles. So it's better to
pathetic
play,
human
right?
beings. Nintendo 64 did not necessarily use all of those. Just play GoldenEye. You can play with 4 split screen, and you're good.
Yeah, and that's a great example. GoldenEye, you can see what the other player's doing in front of you.
Yeah.
So if you play 4-player, you can look at where the other player is, and right, I've got them down there now. You know their location. Whereas when you're playing on a PC, you're across the other side of the office or the room or whatever. So it made it a lot better, I think. That.
Yeah, but it's good to rub it in your face when I shoot you and you're right next to me. I can't do that. I can't do that.
A lot less confrontational, yes.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'll murk you, mate. I'll murk you. What are you going to do? You're dead. So you
You've
can always
seen some
laugh
bloodshed.
I think there's fun. There is fun with couch co-op or couch competitiveness.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have that big screen dedicated so you can actually see what you're doing. Because some people back then TVs weren't that big.
That safe space between you, just in case things might go south.
36-inch CRT back then. It's tiny to look at things on GoldenEye, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, there's benefits either way. But, But one thing, online gaming. 1995 to 2005, console online gaming hadn't taken off really. Dreamcast tried it with a few games, but that was back when dial-up was a thing. Broadband hadn't really taken off. And this era of playing online games was predominantly with the PC, that you couldn't really do it with console. It wasn't mainstream. You paid, like, obviously stuff like Mega Drive had Sega Channel, but who really had it? Very few people had it. It was for the rich people. Online gaming with Dreamcast. Who really had the Dreamcast online services? It was for the people who could afford it and play Phantasy Star Online, which is the only game I know that people played on Dreamcast. So again, Sega tried something new with Dreamcast and going forward. Online. But if we like, we're talking MMORPGs and things like that, there were a lot of those that were coming out for PC, but for the consoles, there was few of them. And with the PS2, the Xbox, and the Cube, the Xbox was the only one that truly had online gaming. It's only with the next generation, the 7th generation, did online gaming become more and more prevalent. So that era, if we're talking 1995 to even 2005, online gaming was a key thing for PC gaming.
Internet,
it was a unique selling point, I'll say it. And there's something really special about playing these games online, which obviously we're going to talk about later on when we talk about the game that we'll talk about. There's something really special about that, something really fun about feeling truly immersed and knowing if you're going to if you're, and you can also, if with FPSs you have a league, you know how good you are compared to other people. Say with RTSs, it's just fun knowing how good you are and wanting to be better. But anyway, back to you guys.
Oh, speaking of the internet, let's we got a few more people down there in the chat. Miss Eileen, I think Sir Dan Dice mentioned something about his PC gaming experience.
Yes. So welcome Dandai to the episode and on the chat. So Dandai says he likes CS, Counter-Strike 1.6, Half-Life, Command and Conquer, Red Alert 2, Battle Realms, NBA Live 2003, Need for Speed Underground, etc. So he has a lot of games he has played in the past. That is so cool. Nice list there, Dandai.
I can actually smell those games.
Well, we're going to be talking about one of them, so you want to watch this show, we're going to be talking about one of those games listed. So
speaking of games, let's just get right into it, Sir Dan. Let's go.
Let's go.
Right, well, I'll start off with my first game then, and then we'll go around everybody. So, my first choice of game is a definite contender for my favourite game of all time. It's up against some strong competition, especially from the Sega Mega Drive system, but this is a definite contender, and that's Deus Ex, which is a first-person cyberpunk RPG developed by Ironstorm, and it was released in 2000. It got various ports. I think it's been ported pretty much to every PlayStation and Xbox since. But obviously the original version was PC. In fact, I have got my PlayStation 2 version here because my PC version is digital. But yeah, so I played this on PC around a year after it was released, and I was blown away by it. Absolutely blown away by it. And I don't think I've ever had a game actually teach me that much about life and the realities of the world that we live in as I have this one. It was something as an education, really. It basically does everything the game does and sets out to do. It does to like a top level. You know what I mean? It's a 10 out of 10 game, definitely. And from a gameplay perspective, what makes it so fantastic is it gives you a genuine choice of how to approach every situation. Now that's pretty common nowadays in a lot of games, but back then it was pretty revolutionary. And the amount of options you have, and right down to your player build. So you can be violent, you can choose stealth, you can coerce, coerce everybody in there. You can choose to hack your way through it. It's got a ton of different ways of approaching everything. And I think this is one of the first games I played that I remember. I think to myself, it felt like living in a real world because of the amount of freedom of choice that I had. And everything that you do in the game prompts a reaction. You know what I mean? That just feeds into that immersion, really. It feels really realistic and lived in. But what makes it stand out so much, though, what makes it to me potentially the best game of all time, is its story. Because not only does it have a load of choice and consequence, which means that the story can pan out in different ways. But the story itself is essentially a work of genius because it focuses on the conflict between several factions, and they're basically trying to control the world by proxy. And it's just so reflective of modern society. It is incredible. I mean, there are a lot of references to real world conspiracy theories. And there's other stuff as well, like mythology and philosophies that we're attached to in the real world, and they're all referenced too. But it just provides this like capitalist commentary on how like political elites manipulate masses. You know what I mean? And it as good as predicted the future in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? You're talking. This has got stuff like populist manipulation through viruses and vaccines, which you'd be quite easily forgiven for seeing it linked to COVID. Do you know what I mean? It's scary how much it attaches to reality, to be honest. So I don't want to go into spoilers too much for it, but this is a game that if you play and you apply it, you reflect on it with reality, it's quite mind blowing. You know what I mean? It really is. So it's a different level of storytelling, really.
Sorry. For people who would like to know how it plays, if you have seen Cyberpunk 2077, this is like this game, right? Cyberpunk setting, you have your immersive simulation. So you have choices to make, and every choice that you make will do consequences.
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, that's a great shout to bring up Cyberpunk. I think I've not played Cyberpunk. I've only watched videos of it, but from what I can gather, I've not seen it do much that Deus Ex didn't do. But I'm only guessing at that. I don't know if any of you chaps have played Cyberpunk, but it's a similar thing. You've just got a whole plethora of choices available to you, and things can play out in so many different ways. So, bear in mind this was a 2000 game. So, what was Cyberpunk released last year or the year before? Cyberpunk.
It's a 2-year-old game.
2-year-old game. So, say this is over 20 year older than Cyberpunk. It still offers a lot of that experience.
And this game is different from the first-person games that came out before it, like Doom and Quake, because in Doom and Quake, all you need to do was to kill enemies, and here you need to do some different things. So it's not like you're going to just shoot enemies. You need to use computers and consoles and something like that, and you have the storytelling as well.
Spot on, mate. Yeah. It feels like a very lived-in world. If you played Skyrim, and I know it's a fantasy RPG, but if you played Skyrim and you think that's a deep, immersive RPG, it is absolutely shallow as hell compared to Deus Ex. Deus Ex feels way more lived in and realistic. It's nowhere near as big. There's not as many characters or that to interact with. But in terms of actually feeling like you're in a lived-in world where whatever you do has a knock-on effect, this knocks it out of the park. Really, it really, really does. And it's still, for me, this still really holds up today as well. The gameplay action mechanics have definitely aged. They're a lot jankier now than if you play this. There's a lot more jank to it that you've got to bear with than there was back then. And the AI, especially the AI, you can tell it's over 20-year-old. But the actual storytelling and the immersion factor is absolutely fantastic. So I would say, I mean, bearing in mind this was on sale on GOG the other week for 69p. 69p. You know what I mean? So this is one game that you have, for me, for everybody. If you've got a PC, you have got to play it. If you haven't got a PC, if you've got PlayStation 2 or PlayStation or Xbox, for me, you've got to play this game. It's absolutely fantastic. And all I'd say is, if you're playing it on PC, I'd play the vanilla version, but there is a mod for it called the GMDX mod, which adds a lot of quality of life improvements. So if you play it vanilla, and if vanilla doesn't grab you, try it with the GMDX mod. That might make your life a little bit easier.
I have a question to Sir Dan. You showed a PlayStation 2 version earlier. Is that exactly the same as the PC version?
No, it's I'd say it's about 15, maybe 20% streamlined, more streamlined. So it's the plot's the same, the level layouts, the challenges, the quests are the same, but there's not as much depth in terms of the role playing. What you can manipulate in terms of like you know how you build a character and certain options and that. So it's just more streamlined basically. It's more consoleized, but it's still brilliant on PlayStation 2. In fact, if you're a console player and you prefer more streamlined experiences, it might be better off to start with one of the console versions. So it's more action orientated.
Yeah, but that being said, like, I see you've got like a gun in this. There's an FPS element to it. Surely it's easier to control on the PC?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's your PC is going to be a better experience, but it's just those that if people just want a more streamlined. There's a lot of things in the PC version that you don't have to really bother with as much in the PlayStation 2 version. It's a bit easier to sit in, and I know some people prefer that. So,
but the PC version is like you could say the PC version is the full cut of the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's the full version of it. The PS version, they've obviously made it like you could say it's like a shortened version of the film, if you like, the cut and bits in there. Yeah, I remember this game actually because I remember selling it when I worked in the shop in the Dixon's place, and I remember it was quite cheap though. This is back in 2002, 2003, and obviously you say this is a 2000 game. It shows you just how quickly PC games can depreciate. Because the graphics cards, people buy these games. I mean, they make their money when these things come out. The elite will buy these things and will pay the premium for it. After a few years, as PC technology is caught up, the game's relevance isn't there anymore. So I remember selling it for £10 in the sold out. So what is a different company takes responsibility back then of publishing the disc, and the company was called Sold Out, and it was like a cheap £5. I don't know if you remember it. It was like a white cover, and it's got little Deus Ex in the little middle box, and that's it. So it's saying it's part of the Sold Out range. It's £5 for the game. Go for it. And now to get that game, like you said, 69p on Steam is it or something like that?
On GOG. It was on GOG.
Okay, on GOG. So it's
still on sale.
Next to nothing. It's so cheap to play these really great games now. We're living in an era where getting access to these old PC games is nothing. It's nothing. And you can play this. You get a cooked meal for more money than these video games, than these PC games. That's amazing, isn't it? This is obviously cutting edge in 2000, but that game was very popular, and I remember it. I haven't played it. I'm aware of it. My friend Andrew goes on about it because there was obviously it's had its sequels. It spawned sequels, doesn't it? That's how successful this game was. I know there was one on the Wii U that my friend Andrew goes, look, they did the Wii U one because it plays unique to that system, and it's obviously a sequel that's on that, and it got good reviews. And it's the only Wii U game I don't have, and maybe I should get it because obviously I should play it. But like I'm really going to bother, it's not my cup of tea. But I can understand why people are really into these sort of games, and this particular game, that Cyberpunk was mentioned. And it does look very much like what JDM said. It does look very much like the early Cyberpunk before. And Cyberpunk it's probably if it weren't for games like this, there would be no Cyberpunk. It's probably borrowed a lot of this kind of game and genres from this game and expanded things. Obviously, it's a different game altogether. I know Cyberpunk is a much bigger game. There's a lot more depth to it for sure compared to this thing. But this game was like a springboard for games like that to exist and etc. So that's a very interesting choice. But yeah, this was actually a very, very critically acclaimed game, and I remember it. So that goes to show.
Nice one, mate. Nice one. Well, yeah, that's my first one anyway. So I seeing as we've got Miss Eileen back, and we've been waiting for her back for a long time. Let's get your first one, Miss Eileen.
Go on.
Okay. Oh, before I start, hi Sir Pao. Welcome to the.
Hey.
Hi Sir Pao.
Hello, good evening, and good day to everyone.
You got a nice pinball table back there.
Space Cadets.
Yeah, but it's not working, and for some reason, the light on the other side is reflecting.
All right, Miss
It's gonna have to block it.
All right, let's go.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about my first pick, and I guess this will strike some nostalgia in many of you. This is my first pick is The Sims.
Deluxe
So I know many of
edition.
you
Nice.
have played the modern ones. Little showcase first. I've got some expansion packs as well. There you go.
Is that the
Some
first
expansion
ever
packs.
Sims? Is that the first
Yeah.
one that was ever made? Yeah.
Yes, it's the first one.
I mean, it
So
says
my
deluxe. It says,
Show,
it says
show.
deluxe. It says deluxe edition. So is that
yes,
like
it's
a?
the
Yeah.
yep, it's the deluxe edition. It's a mix of the first game and Live and Large expansion pack,
Right.
along with others. These are what I have.
Oof. Yeah.
So The Sims 1 was released on PC in the year 2000. And, well, as many of you know, you can control the lives of your Sims, their basic needs, their career, family, education, social life. So, what I like about this game is that, well, first of all, I grew up with SimCity. So, SimCity, of course, you build cities, buildings, and roads, and, well, a city. Then there
Mm.
was also SimTown. Also gonna show SimTown here. I guess you can see it in the corner.
Nice.
So from the big city, it shrunk into a town, and I was already excited to see small people. You can see kids biking. You can like remove the roofs of houses, and you can see people in their houses just living. And then here came the Sims. You can control their lives now. And I was like, wow, this was a revolutionary game when it came out because wow, I can control people's lives now. So wow, I can make them move, go there, go to the bathroom, go to sleep, eat. So you can control everything, even conversations they make and decision making. So also you can enjoy designing houses. You get your sim to work, earn money, so they can buy furniture, build their houses, get more stuff. And I think this game also made me unknowingly love jazz music. When you get to the build mode and buy mode,
Mm.
there's like a nice background music. It's jazz, and yeah, it's like relaxing when you build your design your home, and the music is ambient in the background. It's just relaxing. You can get creative with it. Like modern Sims, you can play your own music. You can buy additional stuff. I think there was either Maxis Online or Sims Online back then for the Sims 1. You can expand your community by playing more families in different homes, and you can make everybody friends. It's endless fun, and you can be creative as you want. And like I showed earlier, there are expansion packs. Each expansion pack brings generally new items, characters, neighborhoods, skins, and features. Like I showed earlier, um, where is it? The deluxe edition has the Living Large expansion pack with it. It has additional careers, um, the house party. You can hold parties, gatherings in homes, and if it's a good enough party, um, people still know Drew Carey, right? Yeah, Drew Carey. He does cameo in
Yeah.
the party. If it's good enough. Then you also have hot dates. You have the ability to leave your home and travel to other destinations. So the destination here is downtown. You can also start carrying things in your inventory and gift it to other Sims. There's also the vacation. I don't have it here, but I have played it before, and it's a really fun expansion pack because you go to different vacation spots. You can buy souvenirs. You have new recreational activities to do. You can rent a hotel or an igloo or tent depending on the season of the vacation spot. Then there's the Unleashed where there are pets introduced. You can
Mm.
modify communities, and those community spots can become coffee shops, commercial hubs, and so on. And then I also have Superstar, where you can make your sim into a superstar, an entertainment figure. There are also cameo appearances by other celebrities like Avril Lavigne, Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe, John Bon Jovi, Christina Aguilera, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah McLachlan, Jennifer Lopez, and Richie Sambora. So there's quite a list of celebrities that lent their um, presence into the game, licensed presence, I suppose. And then last of the expansion packs is Making Magic, which allows Sims to cast spells, and they alter. I did not get to play that, but I think they alter the moods and the stats of other Sims, I guess. So the Sims one is my first pick for tonight. Anybody else played it?
Question:
Yes, sir.
Is this the first sim that you can shag?
I knew he was going to ask that question. I knew it was coming.
What?
I knew this was a question. I knew this was going to happen.
What do you call it? Woohoo? Is it?
Yes, it's the woohoo. It's the woohoo.
But is that desktop must have a higher rating? Obviously, it's an EOS. It must be a mature rating in that game, or something along those lines. If you're going to have private parts shown on naked bodies, you know they're vertical. It must be not appropriate for children.
Yes, I don't have the box, so I don't see the rating. I lost the box, unfortunately, the big ass box. So I only got this CD and not the manual, unfortunately. But I'm not sure what ESRB or PEGI rating this one has.
I mean,
Most
it was
probably
family
it's going to be
friendly.
teen.
It must be teen.
Yeah,
family
maybe.
friendly.
Teens, because it has the pixels when they get naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's censorship.
You can actually
And-
edit the censorship out, and it's just like a birthday suit.
Another question:
Uh.
Can you zoom in them shagging?
I mean, this ain't. I mean, what are we trying to do here? I mean, I don't know if you can. I think in the later revisions, because they did make later ones after. It's not just expansion pack with Sims 2 and with all the others that came out afterwards. There were packs which were more adult oriented. I believe that. I could be talking rubbish, but I believe there were because I remember selling some of this stuff. It's not a game that I would personally go for personally, but I can understand the appeal of playing a game and playing out a fantasy when you simulate it of whatever it is. I'm not talking about the sexualized aspect of it, but you know, like going to work, having a job, having a family, and all the sort of fun aspects of it. So you could really get into stuff like this if this is your kind of jam. And the issue, I personally can understand why it was so popular because there's a friend called my brother friend Renell was the first person who had this game. And he goes, "You don't know about The Sims," and he would spend hours playing this game. He was so immersed into it, and I got to the point of like, well, what's the real world? This or this? You know, what are you going to? You know, how many hours do you spend on this game? And he spent hours and hours grooming his avatar to do certain things, and he really loved it. He was really into it because it's like, how long is a piece of string? This game would never end. It was like the never-ending story. That's the thing with games like Sims, and that is how PC games with MMORPGs and all sorts of games, they just never end. And there's a danger. This is like the first one that I remember that would just last forever. There was no point to the game. There was no like definitive start and finish. You just enjoy evolving your little sim and do what you want to do. And that was the most insidious aspect of this game. And you wanted to coming back more and more to sort of develop. And that was the first. That's like the first game of its kind. I remember, and when after my friend Renal got it, everyone was talking about it. They played The Sims. I'm doing this is what I'm doing my time. It blew up, and with The Sims 2. I thought, okay, The Sims craze had died down. No, a mother came in to the shop and asking for their kid. Can I have my son wants to have The Sims 2? He wants this special, and she knew the expansion pack because the kid wanted it. So The Sims, the sequels actually go up just as popular as the original, and I was shocked at like how people must have gotten onto this as a gimmick. But it was just as insidious as Pokemon was for PC. So that's my thing.
I really don't understand the appeal of Sims, to be honest. The first time I saw Sim, the first one, when it came out, I'm like, "Oh, this is like if your Barbie dolls can move in a virtual world, this would be it." I mean that's it. I mean, is there a story here? I mean, all you do is just control their everyday day-to-day life, right? Is there anything else in here?
Isn't it? It's a way of playing make-believe. It's like a doll's house in your PC, isn't it? Is that a fair analogy?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to sound sexist here, but I bought this and I never played it ever because my girlfriend was addicted to it. My girlfriend at the time was addicted to it.
Same.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is, and I don't want to sound sexist, but I'm wondering if a big part of this appeal is the kind of female nurturing, nest building, homely, creation type thing. You tell me, Miss Eileen, do you think that might be true, or am I being sexist?
I'm not sure because I really just love simulation games in general. I just love simulation games.
Well, from a woman's
Esther
point
Joe.
of view, I know you don't want to speak for all women, but do you think that could be the case? Do you think there are some women that like this sort of stuff because they have the maternal instinct, the nurturing instinct? Do you think does this game hone to your nurturing instinct if you have one? I'm digging myself a right hole here, aren't I, with you? But do you think that could be the case from a women's point of view? I'm just guessing.
I'm not really sure because there are also men who play this game for the laughs instead.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I played it, but not as long as my girlfriend is playing it. Because I played Sims 3. So my girlfriend just playing it. Then she also invites her friends to play it. So they spent most of the time playing Sims 3 on my laptop back then than I did. So
Did they invite you to shag though?
Oh,
in real life,
They didn't say they didn't deny it. They
you
didn't
don't
deny
have
it.
to answer that question.
No.
You don't have to answer that question. If people
Therefore, we can prove that
if someone's honor is at stake, you don't have to answer the question.
sums up
Therefore,
how
we can
much of a loser I am.
I mean,
then.
surely Sims is not just about that. It's
Oh, by
just
the
a
way,
part of that. It's just a part of it, sure.
Another appeal of this game is I have my shout out to my sister-in-law because she loves Sims games. She, let's say, she loves interior design and architecture, so she loves designing the homes
there
more
you go.
than controlling the lives of
Yeah.
the people. So there's also that creativity aspect of the Sims games. Like creation.
And this is what I like with the Maxis games, because I remember Spore was a Maxis game, I guess. They're more
Yes.
into the creativity games. Spore, you play as a like a god who can you create monsters with parts, right? It's what I love with the Maxis games. They like spurt creativity in gamers.
I think it's post Maxis Will Write game.
Ah,
I think so. I'm not sure. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. By the way, just a note for the Sims games. Unfortunately, it's hard to make them work on modern Windows. So I just hope
Really?
I'm not sure if it will ever be re-released on modern PCs. But yes, it does not work on modern PCs.
Not even with compatibility mode.
Yes, it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, even I've tinkered with all the compatibility modes. It doesn't work, unfortunately.
Shame for the master race.
Then I guess,
We
then
all
I
know
guess
why you
modern
wanted-
PCs are stuck with Sims 4.
I'm well aware of the deviant reasons why you wanted that game to run, Sir Joe. So maybe it's a good thing. Okay.
I think that's the reason why The Sims 2 was a better game than because it runs on almost all platforms, Windows platforms, than the previous one.
Well, I also have the Sims 2. I think I want to check if it still works with Windows 11 or Windows 10. I hope so.
Let us know if it does.
Fingers crossed.
Still do.
Great choice, mate. Great choice. I appreciate you bringing that one on there. Brilliant.
Thank you. And I think it holds, maybe it holds up to this day in terms of gameplay because it's very simplistic in nature. I think it's simple. It's easy to go into for anybody trying to get into Sims, but not for anybody who's started with maybe Sims 3 or Sims 4. But anybody just starting with The Sims, this would be easy to get to.
Nice one, mate. Nice one. Lovely job. Well, right then, we'll move on to we will get my fellow Sega Mega Master Viraj. We'll get one of his choices up now. So, what you got for us, buddy?
All right. So the first game I'm going to talk about is it's called Quake 3 Arena by id Software. Okay. Now, obviously, we've mentioned Quake 2 earlier being one of the main things, but this game, my goodness me, was I addicted to it. It's like the first PC game I addicted to. It came out in 1999. I was 13, 14 then. Now, how I obtained this game was through through dirty means because like I had a computer with 2 disk drives and a copier, and my friend my friend came over and he goes, I got this game, and I just copied it on a blank disc, and there it is. So I had the, I pirated it. I'd say it. I pirated it. I'm a bad man. But I got the game. And back in those days, you could do so much with it. And as you can see, it's a lot more polished. To those of you who played Quake 2, this is a lot more polished as a game. The multiplayer on this was the key thing. This was the thing. And there were two games at the time. There's this game and another game called Unreal Tournament. I know a lot of people love Unreal Tournament, and this is not a slight to you, but I just prefer Quake 3. That's basically it. I like the presentation of it, how you can just scroll through the guns, etc., all the different weapons. So you had like a... well, the aim of the game is just to kill people. That's basically it, and go through it and each level. So you got that sort of campaign mode, which is you get different characters and you have to kill them, and the AI is stronger as you go along the level. That's basically fundamentally the game. But it's the multiplayer mode that kept me coming back for more playing online. And as you can see, graphically, it looks primitive by today's standards, but it was pretty cool back then. And most computers could run this on their graphics card. That's the key thing. It didn't require a really high-end graphics card, so it was such a playable game. There was always people on the servers to play this game. And you had different characters you could play as and whatnot in the Quake world. But yeah, what I loved about it was the different array of weapons you can get. So here you see in the demo a rocket launcher being used. Obviously, you've got armor as well. You've got the plasma gun, which is another personal favorite of mine. There's also the BFG, which is, as we know, the big gun. So that's actually the one weapon you want to get. But you obviously pick up ammo and whatever and play online. And whoever gets the most frags, the most kills wins. That's basically it. And there's obviously capture the enemy flag, which is the one I love to do. I could just go online easily and play like 50-50, whoever's there, 5 people on one team, 5 on the other team, and you capture the enemy flag. That's basically it, kind of like paintball, but online. So a lot of fun. Going back to the weapons, different weapons have different effects, like the railgun, you can shoot into people and just kill them straight away. You've got a shotgun, which is good for close quarters. So different weapons on this game have their strengths and weaknesses. Another reason I really love this game is if you had a mouse with a wheel on it, you could easily just scroll through the weapons. So in terms of, if I was to play this game on a console, it was released for Dreamcast, I wouldn't have had that that intuitive control mechanism. It would have been harder for me to change through the weapons. On the PC, you could do it quite easily. So you have the benefit of that. And with the pinpoint accuracy of a mouse, it just made it so fun to play. Like the controls for this were so well tuned. And that's one thing I really loved about Quake 3 Arena. So yeah, that's just basically Quake 3 Arena in a nutshell. It's a game that I was just addicted to. I just kept coming back, and I wanted to be the first, and and that's how it was. You just go through each level that's crafted as well, and I love the level design as well. And they're all in different worlds and different places and whatnot. You can jump on platforms, you can go into dark bits and whatever. But yeah, fundamentally, that's Quake 3 in a nutshell. It's just a good old-fashioned, fun FPS game where you can have fun with your mates and just kill them. And it was just so playable because nobody needed to really upgrade their graphics card for it. Anyone could play this game.
Had you played Quake 2 before this, mate?
Yes, I did. And what I will say about Quake 2 is its first player mode. It's better, to be honest. It's actually a better single player mode. In terms of the fact that it has a bit more depth to it than this. But in terms of multiplayer, this is the one. This is the one that I really loved. And that's why this game gets a bit of flack because people didn't like the single player mode. They said it was too easy or whatever. But you can always change the difficulty section. It can get quite hard as well. But yeah, I did play Quake 2. But number 3, that's the one. This is the one that I really loved and I just got really addicted to. I think another reason was graphically it was just that much better and more polished than Quake 2. As you can clearly see here. So yeah, Quake 3, good old-fashioned FPS. Not the best FPS, but for me, that was my FPS for the era, and I enjoy playing. I understand a lot of people say Unreal Tournament was better. What's wrong with you? The Redeemer's so much better a weapon than the BFG. You could do so much with Unreal Tournament, and I get it. But this game has its merits, and I'm going to sing about it because everybody sings about Unreal Tournament. So there you go.
Nice.
Was this the game that... Just go ahead, Dad.
No, I'm saying nice choice. That's all, mate. Nice choice.
Was this the game that where they got the monster kill, or like the announcer saying monster kill, or was it a different game?
I think it was this game. When you kill a number of people at once. I don't know if it said monster kill. You know what? It's so long ago I can't even remember.
Yeah.
It was like it might have been one of these games by id Software, but I don't know if it was this one. It might have been Quake 2. When you kill a load of people at once, it does actually say something, but I just can't remember what it was. So it could very well be that. But yeah, like obviously there is a narrator in there that says you are in the lead. 2 frags left, 1 frag left, and then you've won. So it might have very well been that, or excellent, and it tells you, how well you're doing if you're killing loads of people at once. That's it. And it also has a little commentary tag there. You can talk to people, taunt them, and things like that. I think I know it does say humiliation, because if you run out of weapons and bullets, you do have this thing called see that little fist thing there? When you see the weapon icon, you've got one that's just a little fist. That's the grinder, which is basically like a grinding tool on your wrist, and you can kill people by just sawing them to death. And if you kill someone like that, it says humiliation, because it is humiliating. I mean, getting killed by a weapon when you've got a gun and somebody kills you with a knife, it's one of those things. So it was a lot of fun, and I really did love the game and how it played. That's what I will say.
Nice one, great choice, mate. Great choice. That I thought we might get an FPS on there pretty soon, and pretty early on. So that's brilliant, mate. Well, let's go off to.
I've played this game in 20 years. I need to give this one a go now. It's made me want to play it looking at the video.
Let's get your first one then, Juan.
Yeah. Yes, my first game, it's going to be Sanitarium from 1998. Developed by Dreamforge Entertainment and published by ASC Games. This game is a point-and-click psychological horror game. So it's like those PC point-and-click games that we used to play. King's Quest, those kinds of games. So you also have those Indiana Jones games. So this is a much more modern point-and-click game. So in this particular game, you play as an amnesiac who woke up in an asylum. He didn't had his memory first when he was introduced in the game. So his face is covered with bandages, and it's stained with blood. It looks like that his face was surgically repaired, and he didn't have his memories. So that's the premise. He's doing some soul searching, and in every level he becomes a different person, or like a different character from his childhood memories. At one point, he became at one level he became a cartoon, a comic strip character. It's like a isekai game, or like a game that involves what they call this, interdimensional travel. So each level teleports him into deep faculties of his mind, like a comic book, a memory of her of his sister, and some other characters that I won't mention anymore because it's spoiler. So in this game is very grotesque. It's very surreal. You got monsters, but you are able to do some action gameplay, but it's more of puzzles, and there's also a story. Just like modern RPGs, you can select your course of dialogue, and as a kid playing this, it gave me nightmares because it's really grotesque. There's one creature here that's deformed. He looks like he's he was initially a human, but he it seems like he's becoming a plant or something. So that's really it messes up your mind. So it made me interested with psychological thriller or psychological genre, horror genre, like Silent Hill. In movies, you got Shutter Island and Fight Club, something like that. It made me uh, get hooked into the psychological thriller or horror genre. And it's considered as a hidden gem. It's available in GOG.com if you'd like to try it. So that's my first game.
Nice one, mate. Nice. It looks like something I'd be interested in because it seems to have a bit of an RPG style to it, as well as it being an adventure game. So it looks very intriguing, and the horror aspects look very intriguing too. So I think I'll give this one a try for sure, mate.
Same here.
Right.
Very scary looking game. It's like Tim Burton made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Look at those
I was
environments. Look
going
at
to
those
say Tim
things.
Burton like, yeah.
I mean, it's too scary. What is it with you and these scary
I mean,
games? James?
clearly there are a lot of visuals in here that can really scare you. I mean, just the visuals alone, just the background, the kids playing. There's nothing so creepy about that. I mean, there's nothing else creepy about kids playing on a very secluded or alone area, right?
Yeah.
And every once
Yeah.
in a while, you'll see some characters flailing, dancing around for some reason.
And this is one that I've not actually. I've heard of the name one, but I've never really I didn't really know much about this. So I'm gonna, when I come off this show, I'm gonna put this on my wish list, and if it's on sale, I will grab it, mate. Definitely.
Right. I hope you enjoyed the game because I did. and I played this back when that was around 98. So I was 12. I was 12 back then.
Were you too young for
And
this game?
yeah,
I mean, it's a bit scary, you know.
yeah, I didn't care about ESRB or something like that. I
I mean,
just
did it give you
like this game.
trauma? Did you get bad dreams? I mean, it looks kind of scary, man. I mean, like, what about the music in this game? Is the music scary as well? Does it have that sort of atmospheric fear factor?
Yeah.
You know what I like about these kinds of games. I mean, sure, the horror genre evolved throughout the years as technology went on. They really look more realistic now more than ever. But games like this during the late 80s, early 90s, all you have there is your imagination. You can see everyone on the screen, but you never know what they're going to do next. And that's the thing.
They definitely leave more
to the imagination.
Room for tension, yeah. More to the imagination, and in that there's more room for tension because your mind's ticking over what potentially could happen.
Oh, potentially, yeah, that's right.
That's a great choice, JDM. Nice one, Chief. Nice
Very
one.
interesting.
We'll move on to, well, you might as well give us yours then, Joe.
Oh, we're going with my next. Okay. Oh boy, here we go.
What's with the laughter?
Okay.
There's something we have to worry about here.
Okay.
You know?
Not safe for public transport.
Do I
Okay.
have to brace myself?
So you know me, guys. I'm a JRPG kind of guy, and so to prepare for this particular episode, I scoured the net for some PC games from the 90s up to the 2005s, and there were a lot of JRPGs that came out, but more on the 2006 onwards, and there were a few that were translated into English by a fan translation group. And so I found two. And mind you, I didn't realize it's going to be like this. It's just a happy coincidence that I found them to be like this. Okay, so the first game that I'm going to talk about is a game called Men at Work 2. I don't know why it's called like it's called that. Um, it kind of sounds like something that you will hear on a gay bar.
Yeah, Men at Work 2. So this is the second game. It's a sequel we're talking about. There was a Men at Work 1.
Yeah, Men at Work 1. That's what. So I'm not sure about Men at Work 1, but this is Men at Work 2, and it took me a while to understand why it's called that. So I'm gonna show you the game. And surprisingly enough, there's not much videos about this game. So Men at Work exclamation point 2 was developed and published by Studio E. Was released only in Japan on November of 2000, and the English translation was released by Mirror Moon, fully playable for PC on July 2008. So it is a mixture of a visual novel, dating simulation, and role-playing game in one. Yeah, with some not safe for work content, of course. Story. So the plot revolves around a teenage male lead character who found himself orphaned by the loss of his father. He was then approached by two strangers, introducing themselves as hunters, who wanted to pay respects to their deceased benefactor, the dad. And they offered the lead character an opportunity to become a hunter under their academy. So he reluctantly agreed to the offer and left his home along with his adopted sister. With this,
Quote unquote.
to become hunters in training, yeah? And so he was about to find out that being a hunter does not necessarily mean what the word implies. And the lead character will be joined by other girls, of course, who are also training to be hunters. And together they will do various tasks to keep the academy afloat and avoid selling the place and deal with a mysterious evil that is hunting the hunters. Ooh. Okay, so let's talk about the visuals. As you can see there, artwork reminds me of that awkward time between the transition period of late 1990s and early 2000s anime. The characters were pretty drawn decently with some various expressions depending on the mood. Oh, the background is just a still image, typical for most visual novels. Every once in a while, there will be special images that will be unlocked as you progress through the game. And
Special.
all of these pictures will be available in the game's gallery. And unfortunately, guys who are watching us in the video, I cannot show you any of those images but these guys right here, they can vouch for me. I've been sending them pictures of all of those of all of those special images, so they can attest.
Lucky us.
Yeah, they can attest that I'm telling the truth. All right, so take my word for it. Audio. The music sounds like they took a few tracks with looping synthesizers, then just added some other musical instruments. This is a pretty common practice in most J-pop music anyway, especially during around this time period. All right, gameplay. So as far as the dating simulation aspect goes, you need to be constantly talking to the girls, scattered all over the city during your free time, from 10 o'clock in the morning up to 5 p.m. Each place will subtract 2 hours from your clock, and so you need to be careful on who to talk with. Once 6 p.m. hits sundown, you will automatically go back to the academy, and during the after hours, you also need to visit the girls in their respective rooms. Wink, wink. From 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And each visit will take you 1 hour from your clock. So once 11 p.m. hits, you will automatically sleep in your own room. And mind you, if you talk to the girls at the right place and at the right time, you won't be sleeping alone. Haha. So, as far as the RPG side goes, right? Combat, turn-based style, similar to Suikoden 1 and 2, meaning you will have a maximum of 3 characters in front of the line, and the remaining will be at the back on standby. If one of the characters are nearly about to die, you can swap them over, right? So you choose which action they should take first, and then once you chose what you wanted to do, and then every character will start acting depending on how high their agilities are. There will be a number assigned to each character on the combat field that signifies who will act first. So as you can see there on the screen, you can see 1, 2, 5, 3, and 4. So that means this particular person will act first, and then the other one is second, and then a monster will act third, fourth, and then fifth, so on and so on. So that's how you know who is going to act first. So by knowing that, you can plan whether you should attack or whether you should heal or whether you should defend. Took me a while to understand this mechanic the hard way. There are two ways of getting stronger here: leveling up by defeating monsters, and getting credit points by completing odd jobs. And the game does not tell you how much experience you are getting after a battle or two, nor does it tell you how much more enemies you have to defeat in order to level up. Right? The status screen just shows you the basic stats of your character, all of your characters. And the only change that I noticed is that more magic and skills will be unlocked the more levels you gain. Okay, sure. The credit points. Oh, you can get them depending on how difficult the job is. You take the credit points to the weapon shop and talk to the macho shopkeeper there, who gives you a very suggestive look. And then with your credit points, he will allocate 1 credit point to each of your basic stats like strength, defense, agility, yada yada yada. And so it's up to you whether you like to buff your attack power or be a tank defender or be the fastest one to act. Yeah. The shopkeeper, he doesn't sell you equipment for some reason. Being a weapon shop, he doesn't sell you weapons. So where do I get my weapons, right? You need to find those inside the dungeons. This game does not know what it wants it to be. And I am convinced that the developers wanted this to be an erotic visual novel first and an RPG second. For each chapter in the game, you may be just fighting inside the dungeon maybe once or twice. The dungeons themselves, not really very intricate, very short to complete. I mentioned about the equipment to be found, but sometimes they are so well hidden behind obstacles that you might miss them entirely, and you cannot move the camera angles. It just stays in a permanent isometric view. You can. I tried every button. It just doesn't move. So most of the time, I just keep on roaming around aimlessly, just finding every nook and cranny, hoping that I might find something. The tutorial in this game very inadequate. I believe Mirror Room, the group that did the translation, they might have forgot the imperative details of the combat system and how properly getting stronger you should be. So I had to learn everything the hard way, yeah? And I thought that leveling up will increase my stats, but I noticed I'm still considerably weak as I fight stronger enemies. And I did not realize about the credit points up until chapter 2. And the only reason I did that is because I experimented on randomly clicking the status screen. That's how I found out. And speaking of leveling up in the dungeon, you can grind all you want, but the game will not allow you to save your progress while inside the dungeon, which is bullshit. If you fail to complete the mission, regardless of the reason, the game will send you back outside of the dungeon. And once the dungeon is complete, it is gone for good from the map. So there is no way to grind 4 levels until the next one opens up. If it wasn't for the dating simulation, this game is so linear. The random encounter rate, annoyingly high. My suggestion is putting up the agility points of all of your characters so that they can act first. Some of the enemies here can really hit you harder, and they can really hit you faster than you can. So you'll end up being wiped out even before you're getting the chance to act. For the rest of the game, you will be so busy reading the dialogue and trying to find out which girl to talk to next. It's important because the end goal here is shagging with them one by one. Yeah.
Good luck.
And there is full frontal nudity. These guys can attest to that. The game offers you that, assuming you know how to see them, of course. There is a walkthrough online that you can follow to see the erotic scenes. you cannot shag with all of the girls on your first playthrough, unfortunately. And apparently, you need to complete the routes of each specific girl first before you can do the others. Ha! You can do the others. So this is how the game gets its replayability. You can just try doing a Google search for the erotic parts, but I dare you try typing "men at work" too in the search bar, and let's see if Google gives you the same erotic pictures from the game and not something else.
Well,
Mind you, I tried, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure this is the right man at work that I was looking for.
so on one hand, you have okay. So I just want to ask a question here. So okay, yes, you mentioned how there's erotic art in this game. Okay, the dialogue is it as vulgar as? I mean, obviously we've got full frontal nudity. That's as much as we got here. I mean, is the language used between the guy, the lead male, talking to these women? Yeah, is that as vulgar as the art?
Well, what is her grudge?
So is the language used? So if there's like dialogue, obviously you're talking to these girls. Is the language as erotic as the art that we're looking at? That's the question.
Oh, the dialogue. Oh,
yeah.
So if the dialogue is just like, so if we are going to compare it with Artonoliko Koga, the last time I played, the dialogue here, not really. It's very clean, to be honest.
Oh.
I mean, it's not very suggestive at all. They don't really talk about it's more of it's very vanilla. That's all I can say.
Oh.
So I talk about a dating simulation here. So you only the only male guy in the academy right there. So you're the only guy in there, being surrounded by a bunch of girls. The male lead is pretty awkward. He's not really he's not the alpha male who likes to
he's a nerd.
Yeah, not necessarily a nerd, but he's quite shy.
He's a quiet boy.
Because the only girl that he's with the whole time is his sister. That's all.
I mean, there's a bit. I mean, that in itself is a bit. That raises questions. That in itself, there's something depraved about.
Well, you mentioned that, but there is a part. But if you're going to play the route of the sister, there are some instances that they tend to get more self-aware with each other, and that's the start.
Okay.
That's the start of the descent.
So the point of this game is this weird Japanese erotic or sense of erotica, which is borderline incestual, and it's quite perverted, really, and that's the draw of it if you're into this sort of stuff.
Hey, there is this saying. I believe Sun Tzu mentioned this in The Art of War. If she's not related, she can be dated. I think that's the saying. That's the old Chinese saying.
Because she's your stepsister. Is that what you're saying? You know, is that what we're doing with this?
It's not a stepsister though. It's an adopted sister. Basically, the sister is an orphan that was just adopted to the family, and so it's just the two of them. If you're going to read the dialogue, they've been sleeping with. They've been sleeping beside each other. They've seen each other naked when they were kids. So when they talk to each other, they are so familiar. There are some instances that you might walk into the bath, and she's there, and she's like, "Oh, no big deal," right?
All right.
And sometimes you're getting and the male character. Sometimes you are changing, and then she walks into the door. She sees you naked, and no big deal. Up until that certain point of the game, things got a little bit dicey, and they got. Let's just say the more they see each other naked, the more stuff starts grinding.
Okay, wonderful.
Well, I'm definitely not going to touch that, 'cause if it's got a high encounter rate, that's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker. So
deal breaker.
Grinding, mate.
That is a deal breaker. I mean,
a lot of grinding. No pun intended.
But to be honest, so recommendation: There are other JRPGs for the PC that have better gameplay, or visual novels for the PC that have better pornographic offerings. Okay, and this game came out in the year 2000, right? And there were a lot of games that the developers could have taken inspiration from. And my guess is that the production team of the game was so limited that this was the best that they could do,
Yeah.
given on what they had. So to those people out there who like to get away from the traditional JRPGs, this game might be the one for you because it really did went out of the way, going out of tradition.
Well, on the surface, it does actually look like a traditional JRPG. The only difference is there's a perverted element to it. That's all I can really see from the surface of what you've shown.
Aren't they all?
Wow.
Yeah.
Although this is just more upfront, and I mentioned this to the guys out, and I mentioned it to the group chat. If Persona 5 Thousand Arms were more upfront with their dating simulations, if they were just not just ending it with a kiss, this would have been it.
It's really rare to see these kinds of games on the PC because the RPG games that I've played on the PC are like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale. Those are the typical RPG games that you could play where you can use the mouse. This looks like a console game for me.
It is a console game. Oh, speaking of being a console game, to Sir Dan, the artwork right there is very similar to Tales of the Sky. The battle system as well. So looking at the gameplay right now, it's very reminiscent of Tales of the Sky. The first time I played it, that's the first thing that I thought of.
Yeah. I've not actually played that one. I started on Cold Steel and I didn't take to the series, but I am planning on playing Trials of the Sky. So
I'm sorry. If Trails of Cold Steel is also a dating simulation, if they're also upfront with their dating simulation, it will turn out something like
that. Except less boring, because Cold Steel were absolutely boring. I thought it were a very boring game.
There are a lot of fan service, but never full frontal, which is a boo. Love the artwork though. Love the artwork, but can you get naked for me, please? But no, I digress.
Which game was that for the PS1? Was the Thousand Arms?
Thousand Arms, yeah.
It's a dating simulation RPG, right?
Yeah. You guys should try that as well.
Right.
No, that one for every time you finish a date with a girl, they if you did good, they will give you a kiss. Like a real smooch.
That's quite sweet.
Back on the chick.
It's not
No tongue though. No tongue.
Well, that's
I'm sticking my tongue out, but they don't.
Shall we move on to the next game?
Right.
I think before we did the X-rated episode last week, didn't we, or the other week? So let's get. Thanks for that, Sir Joe. Very much appreciated, mate. We'll move on to Sir Pal then.
Oh, well, that was one long take on that game, and I think we forgot that we're a family show on that part. But then that's the game. Then that's the game.
Still a family show.
Guess we
That's
should
why I
have a
wanted.
disclaimer.
That's why I wanted somebody else to talk because I might say something else.
I can already imagine that. So, as for my first pick, well, it's very common since number one, it's in my background right there, and
Yes.
it was the game that saved me from being bored all this time. After finishing lots of solitaire decks, after learning how pre-sell works, after giving up on Minesweeper because I still can't finish it, then I found pinball, or specifically 3D Pinball Space Cadet. So this is simply just a game of pinball in your PC, and this would have been the second pinball game that I have played. after the pinball on the Nintendo Entertainment System. As
Have you
for
just before you go any further, Sapao, have you ever played pinball in real life on a full machine?
unfortunately, I haven't, and because I haven't seen an actual one in real life.
Got you. So this
Um,
this this is your main introduction to it then.
yes, the computers are the ones that introduced me to pinball, and it made me dream of trying one sometime soon, maybe in the future. But
Yeah,
then,
you might start breaking one soon as well if you're playing on an actual pinball. Uh, I can see Sir Pao losing his cool,
yeah,
breaking a pinball or two.
maybe I would have done the same thing that you can do in the game itself, because in
Yeah.
this pinball game you can actually nudge the table in
Oh,
order for
Yeah.
the ball to move in the direction you want to. Although the although the nudging ability is very much limited, because if you nudge the table too much, it will make you unable to use the flippers,
Yeah.
How do you
leaving
nudge the table? Do you nudge the keyboard
There's a
no.
or
button you push.
No,
do,
it's
do you nudge the
just a
monitor?
shortcut.
I was hoping it was that way, but in order for you to nudge the table, you have to press certain buttons like X to nudge it from the left side, C to nudge it from below, and V to nudge it from the right side.
You
The
grab
let
your monitor, then shake the
that
shake the
that would have
screen.
been that would have been cool, but no, it doesn't happen because, far as I can remember, 3D pinball only appeared on Windows 95, 98, 2000, and Millennium Edition.
Yeah.
Once XP began, I did I was not able to play pinball that much anymore.
Hmm.
But
It's really
then
interesting. Really
but
interesting.
but then fortunately for me, just last night, I was able to find a copy for me to enjoy it once again, and in preparation for this episode as well.
nice.
Although if you will check the Microsoft Store of a present day Windows like 10 or 11, you can find a game there called Pinball Stars, which is actually based from this very 3D pinball, only with texture of the colors that seem to be painful in your retina or optic nerve, wherever you want to point that out. And it's it's not the same feeling as it goes to the sound effects and the music being played, if you are going to play it with a music.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
if you're going to try the modern remake or the modern remaster, stick with the older one, because it's still better. It's still better than the newer version. As for the gameplay, it tells you what to do, as along while you play. Once the ball hits or goes through certain spots, it will tell you what to do, like hit those yellow flags, bump those bumpers, keep re-entering that. What do you call that? I think that's a tunnel right there on the left side of the board,
The
in order
launcher.
for you to get missions
Oh.
that will keep you playing as long as the ball does not fall over. And that's about it. You have three lives or three balls to attempt to go for a high score, and that's actually what an actual pinball machine eh, actual pinball machine's objectives, for you to get a high score. Well, at least on a pinball that's like this, and that does not dispense tickets like in the amusement parks, or
Mm.
Right.
amuse or the arcades, something like that.
I have a question for all of you pinball players out there, whether the real thing, console or PC. Is it true? The harder you push the button, the harder those paddles swing.
No.
Yes,
I mean, I
In
can
real life, yeah.
people keep
in real
doing
life,
that.
yes. In some of the games, that is the case. It's how quickly you can push it. So some pinball games, I've played a number in my time. For example, Sonic Spinball was the first one I ever played on the Mega Drive, and with that, if you just depending on the angling of where Sonic is as a ball, if you whack it quickly, he does go faster. Yeah, it's not pressure sensitive by any means, but there's other pinball games such as Sonic Pinball Party I played on my Game Boy Advance and Pokemon Pinball as well. Similar, but in the real world with real pinball machines, it's definitely based on kinetic movement and energy that you put into the components of the mechanism. And in the real pinball machine, it does need real energy, needs real springs, real power that you have to whack it. You have a lot more control. With the digital pinball, it's different. The mechanics are different, and it's all down to the program and the programming. The different pinball games work differently. That's the fact.
Viraj will be familiar with this. This to me is the greatest pinball game ever made on home computer, and that's Devil Crash from Sega Mega Drive.
Of course. That's the game that Sir Dan let us play.
Yes. That's. I mean, there's Alien Crush, and there's so many in that particular series, and there's so many great pinball games. This particular one that Sir Pow is talking about, I remember selling. Like when I first started working, this was there was a laptop section in the shop, and that game was running. It was that very game. So for me, it's a nostalgia hit because I remember selling that old Windows 2000 or ME PC before Windows XP came in, and that was like the demo that was running on it. And like my manager told me off because I was playing that game on the shop floor. He's like, "You're here to sell, you're not here to play bloody video games." I'm like, well, I just wanted to try it out, man. I've got to have to know what it's like to sell it. But it was actually a very, very good, like built-in freeware for a computer for anyone to play, and it's actually a very well-made pinball game. So that's a good chat, Sir Pal. You know,
I'll tell you something. When I put the subject up of favourite PC games, I would never have dreamt that there'd be a perverted JRPG and a pinball game in the selection. I've got to say that you would not associate.
I would have thought they would have picked something like Morrowind or an MMORPG.
Yeah.
That's what you think of with PC. You think MMORPGs. That's what we talk about, like Warcraft and things like that.
No. There's no point of choosing those low-hanging fruits. No. We're a more dignified show.
I guess this is why they call.
Warcraft is a lot more sexualized for you, Sir Joe. That's what I was surprised. You know, I remember reading in the newspaper once there was a man who was talking to a girl on Warcraft, and her avatar and his avatar was naked, and his wife basically left the computer. That man's wife walked in and saw that, you know, this guy was stroking the shift key for this girl, and it ended in divorce. That's how bad it was. His wife playing this role-playing game with this other girl with a naked avatar. And I remember, like, the person who showed me this article was a girl in my university, and she goes, "Viraj, is that cheating?" I'm like, what? And I looked at the article, like, it's strange. What do you think, Roger? And she put me in there. I'm thinking, well, I suppose you're trying to say cheating is in the mind, right? That's where you're going with this. But he hasn't actually physically performed the act. He's just living out a fantasy, right? Yeah, but like, you should be thinking those things with his wife.
This is not to all of you ladies out there. This is not really cheating. It's just culture for the gentlemen. Okay.
No, but hang about. If you're talking to another user,
gentlemen who have certain tastes, who have refined taste in women.
Okay. I'm not going to open this can of worms. I'm not going to elaborate anymore. But anyway, we're talking about pinball games. We're talking about pinball games. Back to pinball games.
Speaking of people who have refined taste in women, we have Sir Joel sending us his video recording about his choices of the PC games, and a very special message to Sir Dan as well. So here it is, Sir Joel, who unfortunately cannot be here with us live. So here he is.
All right, here I am. I'm sorry I can't join you guys in this amazing discussion. I'm absolutely sure that whatever you guys have talked about right now regarding 90s PC games has been really something that I'm imagining the audience is enjoying right now. But first things first, I'm going to have to say, Dan Faulkner, I have a bone to pick with you. Do you know why? Because you've made me choose what my favorite PC games of that era were, and it's like trying to choose my favorite child among a brood of 12. It's almost impossible for me to choose what my favorite PC game of that era was because there are so many great PC games that I played back then and enjoyed. And for you to make me choose two of the very best that I feel I enjoyed the most of, it's blasted impossible. I mean, there are so many great games that came out then, like Baldur's Gate, an RPG that I absolutely love. There's Capitalism Plus. It's an economic sim where you build an empire from scratch using money and investments and everything. There's also the amazing series of Conquest of the New World, a tactical strategy game. I know I'm crap at tactical strategy, but that one I really enjoyed. I played a lot of. And of course, there's also the amazing series of games like, well, the Leisure Suit Larry series. A lot of them, some of them actually came out in the 90s, and those were enjoyable too. But I digress. You've made me choose my two favorite PC games of the 1990s era, and I'll have to settle for a couple that I completely enjoyed, but I can't really say are my all-time top because it's impossible for me to say which ones are my all-time tops. I'll just say that my first most favorite series right now that I can toss out from the top of my head is the Wing Commander series. Well, particularly Wing Commander 3, The Heart of the Tiger, and Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, Wing Commander 3 is technically a flight simulation game, but interlaced with a lot of full motion video. And they had they had big name actors in the full motion videos included in the game. Basically, it's a flight sim where in the far future you are part of a confederation where humans are battling against this alien race called the Kilrathi, or giant cats, the giant cats of space, and they loathe humans, who they call hairless apes. So, Wing Commander 3 is a flight simulation where you blast all of these bad kitties from the sky, well, from space, and you play the main character. His name originally was Maverick. His code name was Maverick. His real name in the game was called Colonel Christopher Blair, but he was renamed in Wing Commander 3 as the Heart of the Tiger because the enemy cats saw him as such a formidable enemy that they renamed him among their ranks. They don't call him Maverick in their ranks. They call him the Heart of the Tiger because he was that fearless. He was that amazing in battle. And he was played by none other than Mark Hamill, the Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. In the 90s, he played another spacefaring jockey, and his name was Christopher Blair. He became Colonel later on. And his original call sign was Maverick, and he eventually became Heart of the Tiger, which is the name of the game, Wing Commander 3 Heart of the Tiger. Again, it's a space shooter simulation where you pilot various different ships of different loadouts and different capabilities, shooting down giant cats in various different ships too. But the nice thing about that game was it had a great storyline to go along with the full motion video that it was running with. And it had everything. It had drama, it had comedy. Oh, Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson is also there. Diff from Back to the Future. Tom Wilson plays I forgot his call sign. I think Maniac. And Tom Wilson plays Maniac, and he's so funny there. You should actually see his performance. So all these amazing actors are in there. Ginger Lynn Allen is also there. Ginger Lynn Allen. If you know, you know. Okay, so basically, Wing Commander 3 Heart of the Tiger has action, has drama, it has comedy, it has betrayal, it has everything that you could want in a movie, and the gameplay to boot. Now, right after that would be Wing Commander 4 The Price of Freedom. Now, that one had even more intrigue, even more betrayal, betrayal, even more drama, some comedy. Ginger Lynn Allen was still there, and of course Mark Hamill was still there, and of course Tom Wilson was still there. A lot of other big name actors were there as well during the full motion video. Same thing, much better production values, but space shooter, but better presentation. Great storyline. It's just an amazing game overall too. So I'm lumping those two, Wing Commander 3, Heart of the Tiger, and Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom, as my first game selection for the 90s PC games. Alright, so that is my first game that I choose for my best PC game of the 90s for this show. Now, the second selection that I'll toss out is a game that my brothers and I enjoyed so much of back in the 90s. It's part of the Gold Box series of Dungeons and Dragons games back then. For those of you who are familiar with the Gold Box series, there are a set of role-playing games where you moved characters around in grids in battle, and of course you followed certain storylines in the Dungeons and Dragons series of books. The Gold Box games that I played, that my brothers played, the Death Knights of Krynn and the Dark Queen of Krynn, follow the storyline from the books of Dungeons and Dragons called the Dragonlance series. Now, the idea is that you are a group of adventurers, of course, Dungeons and Dragons, going out to fight what looks like an invasion of dragons towards your homeland of Krynn. And all these different dragons have different powers. Like the gold dragon the red dragon breathes fire, the green dragon breathes acid, if I remember correctly. The white dragon breathed ice, and the blue dragon, I believe, breathed lightning. So they were amazing final bosses, shall we say. But of course, behind them were different factions, like the Death Knights, the undead knights that would plague the land, and of course the final boss in effect would be called the Dark Queen. I forgot her name completely, but she was the big bad in the third game. Now, it's a tactical strategy game where you move your characters, and of course they were the quintessential Dungeons and Dragons characters. There's the paladin, there's the dwarf, there's the elf, there's the fighter, there's the mage. All of them have different skills, have different skill sets, different abilities. The mage could cast fireball, one of my favorite spells. The paladin could turn undead at certain times of the day. He would be able to gather his power, but he would be one of the strongest knights there. They loosely followed the storyline of the books, but they were so much fun that I didn't mind the tactical strategy part of it. I'm not very good at tactical strategy games, but moving the characters around and tactically being able to go around and run with Dungeons and Dragons rules like backstabs, long-range missile weapons, magic spells and everything. Death Knights of Krynn and Dark Queen of Krynn of the Dungeons and Dragons Gold Box series were so much fun to play. So I can honestly say that if you are looking for old school style RPG, sorry to say, it's not JRPG, but in the old days we had the Gold Box series of Dungeons and Dragons games, and the finest of them, in my personal opinion and in my brother's opinions too, were the Death Knights of Krynn and the Dark Queen of Krynn. So to recap, I'm angry at you, Dan, for making me choose my favorite, two games to talk about here for this episode. I'm angry at you, but of course I'm thankful for the opportunity as well. So the two series that I'm talking about are not the absolute best of the selection, because if you ask me how I made those choices, I had to go through my GOG account and look through all of the games that I love, and it was just so painful trying to find one or two that I can actually say this would stand out and I would love for our audience to play. But I had to make a choice, and you made me do it, Dan. So right now, the two series that I can recommend to my audience, to our audience here in Timeless Gamer, is number one, the Wing Commander series, Wing Commander 3, Heart of the Tiger, Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom, and the Gold Box series, the Dungeons and Dragons series, the Death Knights of Krynn, and the Dark Queen of Krynn. You can play through all of these games as they're connected, because they are kind of connected to each other, although you can play them all separately as well. you will get a recap at the beginning of each game, so that's not going to be a problem. That is my selection for this episode. If you want more of the games that I absolutely loved from back in the 80s, just let us know in the Pinoy Retro Gaming page, and we'll continue the discussion there. For the meantime, back to you guys, and I'll see you guys again soon.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Joel.
Nice.
So there you have it. Wing
What
Commander.
excellent choices.
Three and
Absolutely
four.
fantastic.
I get the same sentiments with Ninong Joel. Because it's really hard to choose a retro PC game.
Gamers right
Just two. Yeah.
It is very difficult. I mean, I actually think that he secretly loves you. He's like the Mr. Smithers to your Mr. Burndan. I wouldn't take it seriously, to be honest. But I can understand his frustration.
Same.
True.
The frustration is real.
I mean,
I just funnily enough picked that up the other day, which is the Dragonlance collection, which is what Knights of Kryn is based around. So I'll probably start reading that at some point. I've never read it. It's a big Dungeons and Dragons thing. Never read it, so I'll see what that's like. But they were two really great selections from Sir Joel, and I think the fact that the Gold Box series has got so many to choose from anyway. The fact that he picked Knights of Kryn from all them, never mind all his other favourite games, says a lot.
All right. So, well, those are technically 4 games from Sir Joel. So let's continue with the second round for everybody else.
All right.
Go ahead, Sir
Have
Dan.
we got time? It's nearly.
We still got
Should we make it a quick?
We'll allow it.
Well,
We'll allow it.
we'll make it quick. We'll make it quick then. I'll try and get through it quick. So my second choice then is The Curse of Monkey Island. Okay, and this is the third installment of the LucasArts trilogy. And the LucasArts trilogy started with The Secret of Monkey Island. Then we had LeChuck's Revenge. And then this. Now, before we go any further, I would say anybody playing these games should start with the very first one, because it's a continuous story that all interlinks. And if you skip an early entry, you won't get quite the impact. But this is basically, it's a point and click adventure game with a big focus on puzzle solving, similar to what JDM brought up with Sanitarium. The one we're seeing now that Joe's showing is The Secret of Monkey Island. This is the first game. So my choice for it is actually the third game in the series, The Curse of Monkey Island. So basically, it follows the adventures of Guybrush Threepwood, and he's a wannabe pirate, and he's a bit of a geek. He'd be better off like working at a supermarket rather than being a pirate. And he's basically just bumbling his way through, trying to be cool, basically. And it's a really fun game. It's based around puzzles. It's got 2 difficulty settings, which is quite unusual for this style of game. And the second difficulty setting adds a lot of extra layers to it. So it's mint for that. It's fantastic. But what makes this series is the humour. The humour is absolutely fantastic. Probably the one of the most humorous games I've ever played, to be honest. And this entry is probably the funniest out of all the entries for me personally. I think it's fantastic. And there's a load of great characters throughout the entire series. This takes the best of the characters from the first 2 series and introduces a few more, which for me are actually the best characters in the entire series. So it's just a real cool, fantastic game. It's got a magical vibe to it. It's got magical music. It kind of, when you're playing, it kind of feels like you're on holiday. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're there in the Caribbean, acting silly with your mates. And for me, this hasn't aged a single day. This is the gameplay, the humor, the writing, everything about it, the graphics, everything is timeless. It is a game that everybody should play. So I would say you don't need any mods for it. You can pick up the series pretty cheap on Steam and GOG. I would say to everybody, play all the first 3 Monkey Island games. There are more Monkey Island games, but they get a bit crap as time goes on. But the first 3 are masterpieces, and for me, The Curse of Monkey Island is the best of those.
All right.
That's mine.
Any comments, guys, about The Curse of Monkey Island?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the series. My cousin used to rant on about the Lucas Arts games, and obviously this is George Lucas production. This is before Disney bought Lucas Arts and shut it down effectively, or amalgamate it into their own, whatever their software company is called. And they came out with hit after hit. I mean, we saw in the credits when this started, Grim Fandango was one of their games. That's another great PC game. And as point and click adventures, this was the king of them. I missed out on this. I know there's one on the first one's bought to save the CD, so it's there if I want to play it. But, there's also the other one was Discworld, which was another point and click adventure game I loved. And there are a number. There's Toonstruck as well. There's a number of really good point and click games, but this is the most prolific one and the most famous one that people will love. So yeah, even though I've not played this game, from is revered as one of the best point and click adventure games of all time is a series. So yeah, good one, man.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
I feel like this is just look at the animation on this particular title alone. I feel like this should have been a Saturday morning cartoon that Disney would have made. Kind of.
No, I won't say.
Did they make
this is more.
It's make a show about this.
This is more a stylistically, it's more dry humor and young adult humor rather than Disney style humor. I'd say there's a lot of dry wit in it, a lot of sarcasm. It's more like a British sitcom like Fawlty Towers.
Or Beavis and Butthead.
So MTV cartoon then, sure.
Your adult cartoons.
What's the first game?
It's very.
The Secret of Monkey Island is the first game.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm on GOG looking up.
Let's add that to our wish list, guys.
So very adult in humor then, yeah.
It's not, when I say adult, it's not adult. It's not adult in regards to sex and swearing.
Right.
It's just it's dry sarcasm and wit. So it's very it could probably go over the heads of younger children.
There you go. Need to be very careful with our wording when we say adult.
Yes, definitely.
Because we're already done with that episode. So, who's next?
Right.
Eileen again then. Eileen. Oh, no. Eileen next were first, weren't she? So
my second pick for two. Yeah. My second game is Microsoft 3D Movie Maker. I'm not sure if anybody has heard of it.
No, Microsoft Movie Maker. 3D Movie Maker.
Not the
It's a
3D
children's
movie
computer.
maker, just a movie.
Yes, I was thinking about that before when I chose this game because there's also a separate 3D Movie Maker. This one is a children's computer game released in 1995. Here you create movie characters, backgrounds, sound effects, music that are available in the game, so you get to pick what is available on the disc. I enjoyed it a lot as a kid because of the tons of ways you can tinker with the program and play the game and make a variety of movies. There are many characters to choose from and select their outfits, but you can't customize them, unfortunately. There are different backgrounds you can choose from. It's from different settings and with different camera angles that would suit your maybe storytelling or effects. There are also sound effects and music available in the game, but you can also use your audio files for it. There are also dialogues available in the game, but just maybe a few phrases. But you have the option to record your own voice and use that on the movie that you're making. But I have to say, back then, when you have like old microphones, it doesn't work quite well. But in modern times, I think it would work. Yeah, it would work quite well today. You can get creative with the movements, with the characters, because there are a lot of like you see there on the movie. It shows props instead of the actors, so you can make them do different movements, and also you can put text and make it a subtitled movie if you like. You can use special effects with various shapes. You can save movies and watch them later on, and there are lots of movies that people have put up on YouTube. You can watch those. Apparently, there's also two expansion packs of this game. One is apparently a Nickelodeon expansion pack where it features Rocco's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy, Real Monsters, and there's also the Japanese pack with Doraemon. So what I think about this game in this time, I think it may not hold up in terms of graphics quality, but the gameplay sure will. Surprisingly, people still play this today. There's actually a forum specifically for this, 3dmm.com. It's what you call this, a classic kind of forum like the BBS boards in the past. Um, Recently, I think last year, this game has been open source. Somebody requested it, and Microsoft just gave it away. It's cool because people can do mods with this game now with the open source, and others make their tools or whatever modifications they have made available for other players to do to use on the game. Um, so there you can watch videos made by others and also create your own and upload it to YouTube. Because actually, this one it still works today, and with the open source, you can download a working version from the internet. So it is endless fun, and you can be as creative as you want. So I hope this piques anybody's interest and try that.
That's very interesting. There's still forums dedicated to it. That is very interesting. I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh, that's a guy. I thought it was a rat.
That's Mr. McZ. That's Microsoft mascot. That was a Microsoft Kids mascot of the 1990s. Is Mr. McZ. I had this software called Microsoft Kids, and he used to always pop up. That's who he is,
Yeah.
and I get what this is, what kind of a game this is, but I wouldn't play it. This is not my cup of tea. Maybe it was great for its time, but I've got a game called The Movies for PC that passes this, which I really enjoyed. By I think it's Lionhead that made it, but I guess this is. I mean, it's good freeware. It's abandonware now that they've given all the mods. You could do all sorts of stuff with it. But I think it's probably a game that might be for the people who enjoyed it at the time. But hey, it's interesting that something like this existed.
Yes.
So you can create your own movies with this.
Yes, you can look up on YouTube what people have made from this software, because there's really tons of things you can do with it. I wish I had saved mine from back then.
I guess that's the reason why it's still like being played today, because you can do a lot of things in the game, and they even have a forum where people could share their movies.
True.
Okay, so all right, so the next recording that they're gonna send me, I'll use this one, and then I'll I'll edit the recording from Sawyer Joel using the 3D movie maker, and that's what will come what I'll come up with.
Alright, let's try that.
Great choice, Eileen. I'll have a look at that one. I'll take that format. Biraj, you're up next then, buddy.
Let's talk about a proper video game. Let's talk about Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer is a series. We can talk about a series, but the game I'm picking is that's the original Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
We've known it's called, well, they backdated it called Time Riddle. It's Command and Conquer Red Alert 2. So there were a number of games in the series. Like Command & Conquer, with Command & Conquer Red Alert, Tiberian Sun, and then we had the next one, which was Red Alert 2, developed by, in my opinion, the best developers of RTS games or real-time strategy games at the time, Westwood Studios.
Westwood.
Rest in peace.
And may they rest in peace, because EA bought them in the end. They've been folded into EA, and I haven't seen anything. I think the last Command & Conquer game was a mobile game, so that's the end of that. But
EA being EA.
Red Alert 2 was a big game. Okay, we've got to put Tiberian Sun here, but one thing I love about Red Alert 2 is the opening and the intro, and it steps up itself from the original Red Alert, which is the video quality is better, the graphics look better, they're much better rendered, and they do hold up. That you can see is a construction. That's so when the whole point in this game and this particular RTS game is, well, the story is the Russians are invading the United States. Obviously, two factions, you've got the Allies and the Soviet Union, and you play as the Allies to go on. You've got the campaigns where you've got to take back America and destroy the Soviet Union, basically, and make sure that they know that they're under the thumb of the Americans. If you follow the story, it's a very interesting story, but I don't want to spoil it. It's a really, because it's got good storytelling arc to it. It's got good actors in the little cutscenes, so it's got full motion video cutscenes as you play. And here we're developing a base, so you have a pouch there to have troops. You got an ore refinery. That's how you get money. You got an ore harvester there. And that takes you get currency, and you build things, units or whatever. So you've just built a weapons factory there, so you can get tanks and whatever. So as the game develops, you play. Now I think this is actually a multiplayer campaign that's being played on this demo that we're playing here. So again, you have skirmish modes that you can play online or against the computer. And it's just basically you versus the AI, and you can make the AI as hard as you want, and it can be quite hard. There is a challenge with this. If you want a challenge, you can put that AI as being as hard as you like. Now, the reason I particularly like this game is the campaign mode is really outstanding, in my opinion. Yes, all of the Command & Conquer Red Alert have really good multiplayer mode, and multiplayer online with this is very fun. But I just love the way that each level gets harder gradually as it goes along, whether you pick the Soviets or the Allies, well, the Americans. Each side, the Soviets, they have strengths, and each as well as have weaknesses. So, for example, the Allies, they have stronger troops. They're GDI, basically their basic. So they're GIs, I should say. Their GI can actually put sandbags around him, so it actually makes him more tougher to take down. Whereas with the Soviets, they don't have it with their conscripts, but they do have stronger tanks. So one side might have something better than the other, and it is a strategic game of chess. You have to work out which units are better at taking certain units out. So it's a lot of fun, this game, a lot of fun, and you can spend hours on playing this game online or whatnot. So yeah, that pretty much is this game in a nutshell, to be honest. I don't really want to go too much on about it, but it is my favorite in the series because of the presentation and how easy it is to play. You need a powerful computer to play this now, and even then you didn't. When EA took over Westwood Studios, the graphical requirements for Red Alert 3 and the later Command & Conquer 3 was so high, you need a new computer, whereas this one didn't need that much power in terms of graphics. And this is why, in my opinion, this is probably the best game in terms of playability and ease of access as well. The other games didn't really do much in terms of pushing the games in innovation. It was just graphically more enhanced. Yes, there were innovations, but it's like they gave this much more innovation, but they wanted that much more for it in terms of buying a new computer or a new graphics card just to play it. Whereas with an RTS game, you don't really need the best graphics. You just need more creativity. And I think this was the pinnacle of the creativity of the Command & Conquer series.
Very nice.
All right.
And you sold me on that one, mate. You sold me on that one because I like real-time strategy games. I never really... I told you with Command & Conquer, one of them kind of series that bypassed me. You just missed certain ones, don't you? And what you're saying about this having the best single player campaign, I would definitely give this a whirl, mate.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well. The only reason I didn't the only reason I didn't choose this one because Sir Viraj already called dibs. But I can attest to it. This is rather an addicting game. The first time I played it was during my third year of high school. Me and my classmates took me to play this game. LAN network, right? And me being the newbie, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just did what they told me on what to do next, what to build next, and then lo and behold, they all chose the Soviet forces,
We've got the big
and
tanks. Yeah.
of course, co- uh, everything's gangster until you hear "Irob reporting," right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, sure. What is that? Oh no, it's those zeppelins, slow as fuck, but they can really destroy all of your buildings in one single go. Especially if you don't have any anti-aircraft. Oh shit! And I'm like, okay,
We're
so
doomed.
they wiped the floor out of me, sure, but knowing what artillery, knowing what weapons, knowing what soldiers, knowing what tanks, knowing what structures I should build, um, I did play this offline, single player. So I was when we got our first computer. This is one of the first games that I installed actually. So I really played the hell out of this game at the time when I was off console gaming. Dark times. I was off console gaming.
Back in the day, it was either this game or Counter Strike.
Definitely. These were this is like the true like hard. Like my brother played Counter Strike. Like he was addicted to that after this game, but I still played this game. Let's not forget this also had an expansion pack. Command and Conquer 2, Yuri's Revenge, and that expanded the game. So you got obviously
Yuri.
For those of you familiar with the story, there's obviously there's a character who's helping Premier Romanov, who was the sort of communist dictator of the Soviets, called Yuri, who's played by Udo Kier. Who's a critically known actor, and they had really good actors in this as well, and playing this game.
You know what's funny, Sir Viraj? Now that you mentioned the actor, I thought the actor who's doing Yuri is the one it's the actor from Pretty Woman, the concierge.
I've never seen that.
He looks kind of the same.
It might be. I mean, his name's Udo Kier, but he was in Blade.
No, this one's different because the actor playing Yuri here is actually Russian.
Ah, right, okay. I mean, so he's basically he has the ability to mind control units, and that's some technology that was exclusive to the Soviets. But when you get Yuri's Revenge, he has his own units, and there's some outlandish fantasy things like you've got mind controlled squids that you can use as a Soviet naval force, and the Allies have dolphins. So it's crazy. I mean, there's so many creative aspects to it, and for those of us who like history and World War II, obviously the whole Red Alert franchise is what if Albert Einstein created a time machine, went back in time, killed Hitler, and this is the alternative timeline this is taken. And Red Alert 1 is about Stalin trying to take over Europe, okay, and obviously the Allies have beaten him, and Red Alert 2 is the continuation of that story that a puppet dictator has been set up in Russia. He's bitter about things. He decides to attack the Americas. After all these years, he's built a force and he's attacking them. And that's the story behind it. Now, I know you said when you first got this game it was difficult to play. If you play the campaign mode, you can learn how to play the game because it teaches you what each unit does as you play the game along in campaign mode. So campaign mode is always a good way to sort of play the game and understand about the units before you go to play skirmishes. Because obviously you've got the whole arsenal when you play skirmishes. But when you're obviously just playing the story, you unlock all the extra things. As each level goes along, all the extra units. There's like a cutscene with Albert Einstein. He goes, "We have created chronosphere. We can transport this," and then obviously you see this, and it's so funny when you see the actors, and it engages you. The story line is like, "Come on, we got to take these Ruskies out, man," or "Come on, let's destroy these capitalists." If you're a communist and you have that political ideal,
in this alternate timeline, Albert Einstein is fat.
Yeah.
You're really tough scientist.
He's a tubby guy, yeah. So again, it's funny. Again, there's Red Alert 3 as well, but that was more style and substance because the actresses in that are really hot, Dan and Joe. You love it because the women that they put in to act were amazing. But the gameplay,
Tanya.
was a bit. It was not a terrible. It was actually a really good game. Actually, Red Alert 3. In terms of difference, it's better. But when EA took over Westwood, there's an X factor that went missing, in my opinion. But that's why I'm saying I prefer Red Alert 2 over 3. But for the women, Sir Joe and Dan,
If there's a reason why I should play Red Alert 3, it's only because of the Japanese campaign, because I love my Gundams.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's the robots.
But there's only one hot.
The girls comes in
Japanese
second. Okay.
You know, the woman who's on the ally side, I like her. She's my favorite for that. Anyway, I don't want to talk about this too much, and I'll dig myself a hole. But I like. Yes, it's more like Red Alert and Flirt and all that stuff with the third game, because it's all about the women. But and it does have some pretty A-list celebrities in the third game. They really did spend the money on the production value of the third game, because it got folded into EA. But in terms of the game itself, it just didn't flow as well. It was a slower game, in my opinion, than Red Alert 2. That's my thoughts on that game. Anyway, Red Alert 2.
That's one of the few games that I will choose robots over girls.
Oh.
Yeah. one of the rare instances that I'll choose not to be a creep for once.
Okay. I mean, you got George Takei, isn't he? He's in the third game.
Oh yeah,
George Takei, yeah.
George Takei, yeah.
The Emperor.
He's the Emperor.
Yeah,
I love his speech though.
You got Tim Curry in the third game.
Tim Curry, yeah.
He's hilarious. Like I'm going to space when he says that line. It's hilarious. I'm going to the only place where there's no communism exists. I go into space. The way he says it as well, it's so hilarious. Everyone, you're laughing because only you know that line because it's so campy and funny. You got David Hasselhoff in the third game. You know, and I'm like, what is this? And you got J.K. Simmons, who's a big star now.
Oh shit! Yeah. That's right.
He's the president. You know.
How the hell they got
communism?
Them, right?
Yeah, and you got
J.K. Simmons, you got Tim Curry, and George Takei. They got money.
They had money. Like you knew they had some A-list actors in there, and some really attractive
They
women.
got EA money, so that means they got our money.
Well, anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move to the next game. I don't think there's any more, unless anyone's got anything else to say about the game. No. Okay, let's move on.
Nah, top choice, mate. Love it. Top choice. JDM, your second one then, mate.
Yes, of course. And before I proceed, let me go ahead and check the chats. Hello, Sir Eris Arvindiwa, who also mentioned his favorite games were Guns by Mayet Entertainment last 2005 and Gunbound by Softinks in 2003. I remember playing Gunbound before. It's like if you have played Worms Armageddon or those Worm games, that's exactly it, but they're using tanks.
Oh, of course, the MMO, the OG Ragnarok, of course.
Yeah. And for my second game, it's going to be first person space flight simulator titled Descent Pre-Space, and it was developed by Volition Entertainment. Some of the if you remember Descent, the game, Descent was a third person shooter game that was developed by Parallax Software. The guys who were in Parallax Software, they moved out and they made a different game development company. It's called Volition Incorporated, the ones who developed Saints Row, and it was published by Interplay Productions. So it's a first-person flight simulation game, and you play as a pilot of the Terrans. So there are two warring factions. You have the Terrans, or the humans, and the alien race called the Vasudans. So they had this 14-year war going on, which they call the Great War. So they've been warring for about 14 years, 1-4. Then, unbeknownst to them, there was an unknown race that attack this part of the galaxy called I don't remember the which part of the galaxy. There was an unknown alien race called the Shivans, causing the two warring races to become allies. So they became the Great Terran Vasudan Alliance not long after that. So it's like if you have played StarCraft, it's like StarCraft but in space. I mean, it's a flight simulation. So, right. So the game is visually stunning. You have explosions. It looks realistic. The scaling of the ships. You have these space superiority fighters like the ones that you use in the ones that you see in Star Wars. You also have these bombers. I think that's the only two ships that you can use, the fighters and the bombers. But you in the campaign, you can see larger ships which are called the destroyers.
The Star
They're different.
Destroyer.
Yeah. They have different classes as well. So you have these like space stations. Then you have these like Leviathan sized ships, especially from the Shivans, the unknown alien race. You can see the scaling of the ships. You have the fighter ship that looks like a dot. Then you have this big, large destroyers that you can also destroy, eh, depending on the mission that you're in. And it really redefined the flight simulation in general because you had Wing Commander. Wing Commander is, I don't call it a 3D game. It looks like a 2.D game.
Yes.
2.D flight simulation game.
It kind of reminds me of
Also,
Star Fox, actually.
yeah, exactly. And even Microsoft did they had this flight simulation, right? Microsoft flight simulation. It's in 2D as well. They make it look like 3D, but it's not actually. It's different in Descent Free Space because it's an actual 3D game. You can see the scaling, you can see the difference in the sizes of the ships, and um, uh, let's see, for the longevity of the game, it just like in Miss Eileen's recommendation in 3D movie maker, this game still has forums. It has a community um, that gathers players, free space players. They do mods for the game. Actually, this game had a sequel called Free Space 2. Then that's the game that they're trying to mod. Uh, they did. You can in Free Space 2, you can play Descent Free Space campaign using the engine of Free Space 2 and with HD textures. So they developed HD textures, they developed additional campaigns, they even recorded updated voice recordings for the pilots when they communicate. And that's really amazing from a 1998 game to have this longevity. in developing and modding this game. And yeah, I think that's it for this game. This is even one of the games that got me into space flight simulations. I love playing flight simulation games, especially on PC. I even thought of buying what they call this, a flight stick for these games. And earlier, I went to the mall. I bought this one. It's a Flight Simulator 98 unauthorized game series. So I can learn more about the controls and how the game works. And maybe I will go back to play this game. And that's it for my second game.
All right, thank you for that, Sir JDM. Actually, it kind of reminds me of I know Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek have their own PC games. But if I
Hmm.
wanted them to do a first person shooter space flight simulation game, it might turn out something like this.
Yeah.
Clearly, it has a lot more detail compared to Wing Commander. Although, granted, they spent more of the budget on the movie side of things rather than the actual
Hmm.
gameplay.
And
Uh,
even Star Wars followed suit to this John the like
TIE
the
fighters,
graphics of this. Yeah.
yeah.
Because back then those Star Wars games, space simulation games were in 2D as well. And it didn't, for me, it didn't look good compared to this game because it's in full 3D and
Really cool.
you have these asteroids scattered around. There's even a level that all you need to do was to escort a cruiser
Mhm.
in an asteroid belt. So
Right.
it's really annoying.
This game strikes me as it's just pure gameplay, not much dialogue. It doesn't really waste your time. It's just
Yeah.
straight up shoot up. It's a straight up shoot whatever it is in your way,
Yeah.
then do it the mission. Then that's it. Move on to the
Yeah.
next.
It doesn't have the cutscenes like in Red Alert 2. It had cutscenes, but it was just narration of
It's narration.
more on the narration or like the briefing. There's
That's
no
it.
like characters who are there are no main characters. You only have the pilot stock in the radio communication.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Sir JDM. And
Mhm.
let's move on to Sir Pao. Sir Pao, what's your second game?
Well, for my second game, we're not gonna make this long because for me, I believe this game deserve its own episode. But to give a good start to it, my second game is Diablo 2.
Diablo 2.
Right.
Of course, as many know from the title itself, the very objective of the entire game is to kill Diablo using any hero class that's available on the character selection the first time you play this game. It could be an Amazon, an assassin, a necromancer, barbarian, paladin, sorceress, and a druid. Although in another Diablo 2, not the expansion one, I believe the sorceress and the druid, or should I say the assassin and the druid are not available. Can't remember which one because I always look for the expansion for me to have more choices of hero classes, with paladin being my personal favorite. Although unlike in the first one, it's not only Diablo that's your objective, but it's one of his brother it's one of his brothers, and I think I'll stop there and not mention the name in order not to spoil it for those who haven't even played this yet. And as I have mentioned, the Diablo franchise deserve its own episode for for Timeless Gamer. Although for
Holy
although
shit.
although for me, since this is the only Diablo version that I played ever, I don't think I won't be able to be part of the panel. I haven't even played the new release Diablo 4, and even the remastered version of this one. The remaster that was, I believe, released on Switch, called Diablo 2 Resurrected. The Now, as for the levels and the gameplay, it's it's it has RPG elements. You level up, you gain experience points, you learn new skills. You have to heal up in order to regain health, and kill kill lots of enemies on your way through five dip through five different acts. So it's like you're playing a game and you're following a story divided into five different acts, unfolding your quest in defeating Diablo and his brothers.
Oh, yes. He has
Nice.
brothers.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Realize you have brothers in there.
Yeah, that one was a surprise. Diablo has brothers.
Yes,
Not
he
just brother, it's brothers.
Brothers.
Yeah,
does.
S
Two brothers,
blue,
doesn't he? He's got two, hasn't he?
and I believe there's two
So
of them.
is Diablo the surname or the first name? I'm seriously asking.
I would wonder the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. And if they do have surnames, that would be another surprise, because far as the game tells, they don't have one.
So, because I looked into Diablo, because Diablo 4 was launched recently, as we all know.
Mhm.
I looked at some of the cinematic cutscenes, and it looks amazing. You watch it, play the fourth game as a movie. It's really good. I thought, wow,
Very
this
much.
is so interesting. It's all about Lilith, who's Diablo's niece, and she had like an affair with an angel or something. I thought, wow, okay, what's this about? And there's so much depth in the story. It's outstanding, and I really liked that when I looked at Diablo 4. This is Diablo 2, and I remember people talking about Diablo 2 when it came out. I'm like, all right, whatever, man. It's not my kind of game. But when I saw the graphics and the cinematic story of 4, I looked back and I thought, okay, so this is about the story, and I just followed the story. And Diablo was Lilith's uncle, and she's actually the youngest of the three brothers. There's another two of these demon masters.
Didn't they
But-
release comic books or literature about Diablo
There's
that
a
explains
Wikipedia
the lore
article.
in depth?
Yeah, there's a lot of depth
Did,
to it. It's a
did they
really
release one?
story.
I think I saw a few books here and there.
Yeah, there,
So
there
for
are
me,
some that I just saw on the internet though.
for me, the pull of this game, even though it's not the kind of game I'll play, the pull of it is the story. I need a plot.
Mm.
I need a story that draws me in, and I like the story of Diablo. From obviously watching Diablo 4, I'm tempted to play the Diablo games just to play out the story. It's really, really interesting. So that's my thoughts on Diablo. Not because of Diablo 2, but because of Diablo 4. So obviously that game has become quite critically renowned, even though the sequels have been spaced out throughout the years. But no, good shout, Sapal. Good game.
Right.
Yeah.
One last question. How's the cow stage in here?
How's the? Oh, sorry. What is that?
Is there a secret cow stage in here?
Oh, I'm not gonna talk about that.
We're not gonna
yeah.
talk about the cows.
The only
Yeah,
game I've played
but-
with the Cow
but-
Station.
It's been a thing in cheat magazines, in IGNs, in walkthrough websites. So it's not really that much of a secret anymore. But then I want the players to experience firsthand how difficult to score.
But they're there.
Yeah,
they're
they're there.
Have you fought them?
I did fought them, and
Was it fun?
it was fun until I ran out of potions.
There you go.
I think that's where they got the joke. There's no cow level in was it in Warcraft 3? There was a cheat code in Warcraft 3 that that's called there's no cow level.
There's no cow.
to to skip the game. To skip the level that you are right now.
Right.
All right.
So very meta joke. All
When I
right.
think
Inside
of cows,
joke.
I think of this game called Earthworm Jim. There's a level dedicated to cows if you've ever played the game.
Dedicated for the
Cow
cows.
level one.
Probably.
Anyway. All right, good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay, so thank you for that, Sir Pao. And I'm not sure. Hopefully, we can do a Diablo-centric episode. If we can find actual players for Diablo 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know we have a few, but we need some. I think, but we need some more, like a couple
Yeah.
more.
Maybe we could scour outside our community because
Yep.
we know
We're
lot
gonna
of
outsource for that.
Yes.
So I'm last, so I'll try to skip a few information about this second game of mine. So, my second game is called Farland Symphony. So with Farland Symphony, so this is it's a tactical JRPG for the PC, developed and published by Studio TGL. That's TGL. And it was released only in Japan, unfortunately, on February of 2002. And the English translation was released by, again, Mirror Moon, fully playable for the PC on February of 2011. So I'm not going to talk about the story anymore, so let's just go ahead with the gameplay. So, tactical JRPG, right? Which means the characters need to move within squares in a grid, particular field map. Most of the time, the victory conditions is to defeat all enemies, while failure is your entire party gets wiped out. And get close enough, and you can attack a chosen enemy directly. If the skill or magic is enough to reach the chosen enemy, you may do so as well. Same principles can be said using items. More damage is dealt if getting struck behind or on the side. So, in this particular game, to make things interesting or difficult, depending on how you look at it, the magic and the skills are not readily available during combat. Okay, so in this game, so they worship 4 elements of the gods: yellow gale, red fire, blue water, green earth. Magic and skills have corresponding elements, and your characters must pray, or in this case, focus on the said element before the magic or skill can be used. So it's like Magic the Gathering, the card game. You need to have certain amount of mana cards before you can invoke a skill or magic. So if you need a red magic that requires 2 focus points, the character must stand close to something red, like an active fire or a lava pit, and then spend 2 turns focusing. If you need to use green magic that require 1 focus point, you need to stand close to something green, like some blades of grass or a tree, and then spend 1 turn focusing. Blue magic requires water, while yellow magic, you can just stand on a colorless field, and you get the idea. So except for that focus thing mechanic, I mentioned the basic rules of the common tactical JRPG. It is a good thing because I already knew all of that, because this game does not tell you any of that. So the first combat will be fighting 7 wild boars in the training field, and it's just you, the male lead, and your adopted sister. Hi, Sir Viraj, and another sister, and so ironically enough, in the training field they skip the tutorial, and the game assumes this is not your first tactical JRPG, and the game kicks you, this is Sparta style, into the fray without telling you on how to fight. And I thought maybe I just pressed the wrong button and skipped the tutorial, so I reset the game, only to find out that the game just don't want to tell you shit. No. So either that or Mirror Moon fucked up the translation again, and they skipped the combat tutorial entirely, And as far as the focus mechanic is concerned, nobody has told me about that, on how it works. I had my hunch why every field map is so vibrant with colors. So I experimented on standing near specific colored objects, and that's how I found out. So the game developers or Mirror Moon did not spend a second telling you all of this. And some of the skills here require HP to be pulled off. There's no MP in this game, meaning for you to pull off some hard hitting skills, it needs your HP, right? Meaning you should have enough healing items with you, or there should be a healer close by if you decide to spam this life self-threatening techniques. Yeah, and if there is one good thing that I can say about this game, and I said this to the guys in our group chat, this game, the way the story progression feels like you are watching back-to-back episodes of an anime series. The events just keep on happening one after another. Every chapter, the plot goes on, you fight, and then move on to the next chapter. And I only played this game like for one day, and already I went up to 4 chapters without even trying. I only spent like 2 hours in the game, and I already reached chapter 4 already. With the game being this linear, there is no way for your characters to grind, to level up. Every chapter only has 1 or 2 fight scenes, and that's it. You just need to keep your characters alive to keep getting the maximum experience points that they can get from the enemies. Oh, and the experience points here are very stingy, and so don't expect reaching the level cap. Even if there is one. The enemies are no pushovers themselves. The AI will always try to hit you from behind and will always go to the most vulnerable in your party or the closest one that they can reach. An old yet a very effective trick would be just luring the enemy one at a time and then gang rape it to death. That's it, really. That's how you will survive in this game. This game doesn't know what it wants to be again. What I'm guessing is that the developers wanted us to think that we are actually playing an anime here and an RPG second. At times, I thought if Bandai Namco wanted to make a tactical Tales of game, it would be probably turned into something like this. But with the gameplay more fun and more balanced. The focus mechanic of this game is very tedious, and it can really waste your time. Really, just finding the right elements all over the field map. And if you know how to maneuver your characters well, and you have sufficient items enough to fight, then all of those focusing on those elements will not be so necessary to begin with. That's all for this game, really. I'm skipping all a whole lot of information there, but time constraints and everything.
I mean, it does aesthetically look like a nice presented game. It does have like some nice art design, some nice, like if you look at the maps, the way the characters design in isometric, the little sprite work, it's quite clear. I think when a lot of people put a lot of emphasis in trying to make things real 3D, their graphics can look quite blocky and unclear, and they don't actually look good. I like this art style because I think it suits this isometric format really well. Yes, it's cartoony, but I think there's something really sweet about it.
Oh yeah, I mean visually, it's quite alluring to the eyes as well. If you're going to look at it, they're very so chibified. The characters are so drawn so well here, and not necessarily like a visual novel style approach, but if you're going to during the story progression, this chibi small size sprite will tend to act out the scenes that they're in into such a comedic effect. You know how games like nowadays they'll just one character here, then one character there. Here they just really act it out, which is very an old school JRPG trope, which I kind of miss.
It saves time rather than like switching to a cutscene. You just go there, you act it out, and that's it. So that's actually a really good thing. So no, it's pretty interesting as tactical RPGs go. Yeah, it's decent. I like it.
If you're going to look at the visuals as well, Sir Viraj, it kind of reminds you of the late '90s PS1 and early 2000s Game Boy Advance games.
I mean, it's not graphically hard to run, and that's the point I'm trying to raise. I mean, we mentioned at the start of this video about how PC games were always the pinnacle of graphics, right? But you can run this game on a PC, and it can handle it quite easily, and it actually makes it accessible for anyone with even a PC which doesn't have a dedicated graphics card these days. And that's the game before this and this one. So there is an aspect of games for PC now which are quite easily playable, and even when this came out, it was quite easy to run as well, I can guess. So there are always pros to certain games. They might not look graphically, they don't go for the over blocky graphics or 3D rendering, but I don't think it would do this game any more of a service if they did it that way. It would cost more to run.
Yeah.
People pay a lot more money for it. For what? Just better graphics? I mean, this makes it affordable and accessible for most people who are into these sort of games. So actually, this is where a game like this can really win for a lot of people.
Oh, about this game, Farland Symphony. For all of for the video watchers out there, you see this lone girl standing right next to the grass. She is your only healer. Her healing magic requires green magic. So that means she needs to stay there on the green patch of grass in order for her to use her healing magic. If she's nowhere near there, she is basically useless. And there's only so much green patch in there. There's one and there's two. And the other patch of green grass is full of enemies. Yeah, so ain't no way you're going to move her all the way there. So this is one of the things that's very frustrating about this game. It's just that for all of your members to be sufficient to be efficient battle wise, they have to be close to their to the elements that there should be affinity with. So if her healing magic is just requires you to be standing right next to a green object, then basically you need to go to her. You need to walk all the way to her direction so that she can heal you, or stock up on the green magic and then she can approach you. Then again, if she runs out of green mana, then
she'll go back.
Nothing. She's basically dead weight. And then everybody else, So like I said, if they're not next to the element that they're akin to, might as well just attack them normally. And so this is Farland Symphony, guys, for the PC. For all of you guys out there who are interested in Farland Symphony and Men at Work 2, you can just Google search them. It took me a while to find a working copies of both games, but I managed to find them. This game in particular, though, very safe. You can play them on the office. That's fine. There ain't no porn in here, unfortunately for me. But hey, every once in a while, let's keep it clean. And that's it, guys. That's all. Sir Dan is still having some trouble getting back here with us, so we'll just end the show then. Sir Dan is there in the chat. Sir Dan says Baldur's Gate 2, Hard West, XCOM 94. Viraj is right. The PC has a ton of great low graphics game. Avernum Escape from the Pit is one of mine, and it looks like a very early 16-bit game.
Yeah. Just use software rendering and you're good. Back then.
Oh, no DirectX. How about using DirectX? Oh my God, DirectX.
DirectX.
Your best friend during the late 90s. Okay, so let's just do our shameless plug. Let's start with Sir Pao. Where can they find you?
So you can find me on Facebook as Sir Pao, in YouTube, Sir Pao Gaming Channel, on Twitch, Sir_Pao_24, as well as on Kick. And I usually stream at night in order for me to stream longer, since that's mostly my free time after school, after fulfilling my duties as teacher. So hope to see you on my next stream. I'm still continuing Final Fantasy VII and Diablo.
All right. Thank you for that,
Alright.
Sir Pao. How about Sir JDM? Where can they find you?
Yes, 123 Go Retro on Twitch. I still have my Facebook page though, 123 Go. I usually post my streams there, but I streaming on Twitch most of the time. I also have Kick 123 Go Retro. So see you guys on my stream.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir JDM. How about Miss Ensign Porter? Miss I, where can they find you?
I haven't
work.
streamed for a while. Yes, you can find it at work. Because of
Work all the time.
Maybe you can
Yes,
stream your work.
Stream at work. Nurse simulator.
well, I do have Team Hospital. Yes, Miguel. Well, you can see me on Twitch at Ensign Porter. That's if I can stream on my days off, which is basically non-existent at this point. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch, and I have a YouTube where I upload all my VODs. So see you when I stream again, whenever that may be.
All right. Thank you for that, Miss I. And how about Sir Viraj? Where can they find you?
You can find me in hell. No, you can find me on the you can find me on the Sega Mega Masters channel on YouTube. It's a new channel. We've set it up, and me and Sir Dan that you saw speaking earlier on that, and we have a lot of fun talking about old Sega Mega Drive and Genesis. Genesis is the Mega Drive in USA and Master System games. And we've also got. You can also find us in Sega Genesis group Facebook. That's where you can find us.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir Viraj. And he's right. So I live next door to him. So he's a good neighbor. In hell. And how about the captain of the ship for tonight, Sir Dan?
Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties there. Basically, come and find us where Saviraj said, but he said it in a posher voice, so you probably understand it better. So, Sega Genesis Facebook group or Sega Mega Masters on YouTube.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Dan. And so just to plug the show, so Timeless Gamer guys, so you can still watch our previous episodes, our video episodes, just by going to the YouTube channel Timeless Gamer PRG. There are other Timeless Gamer who has the same name as us, but it's Timeless Gamer PRG. Or you can just go to the Facebook page of Pinoy Retro Gaming. Our shows are also in there. Also to plug the show, Kwentong Bidyuan, another podcast show produced by Pinoy Retro Gaming. That's on a Sunday. The last episode that they did was all about Gundams, guys. So for all of you Gundam enthusiasts there, just go to Pinoy Retro Gaming Facebook page, and you can watch our episode all about Gundams. And in our show, if you prefer just listening to the audio, you just want to listen to us talk, that's fine. Our audio version is also available in all major podcast platforms. I'm not going to list them all yet again in this late of the show. And yeah, that's it, guys. And thank you all so much to all of you guys who stayed from start to finish. I would like to give a quick shout out to Sir Jansen, page name required, coming from PRG, and to Sir Angelo Ribon, and Sir Eris. Hi, Sir Eris, and Jericho Ilagan. All right, and that's guys. And on behalf of Sir Joel, who can't be here, and Miss Charlene Honoka 99, who can't be here as well. Our games and our bodies may grow out of date, but our gaming experiences will forever remain. Hey,
Timeless.
Yes.
See you guys. Bye. That's the show.
Bye.
Bye.